Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Brett Gogol. Welcome to the second annual Gridiron Football League Combine. We're here at the Max Center in McCook, Illinois, where we have about hopefully 200 different participants that will be showing off their best. We've got several different professional and collegiate scouts in the house. So we're hopefully that the GFL will allow these athletes to show their best and be able to represent themselves well in front of these scouts. I'm here with my co-host, Eric Willow White. And Eric, could you tell us about the league a little bit more?
Sure. The league is entering its 10th year, Brett. The league has actually grown and expanded. Last year they finished with 8 teams. Going into the 2016 season now, the league has grown to 14 teams. So almost doubled their league presence. The league is primarily based out of the northeastern Illinois and the southeastern Wisconsin area. That's where the bulk of the teams are comprised from. So it's all locally based, and it's part of the Gridiron Football League Midwest section.
Which is impressive in and of itself. When you get a league that started out this small in just a short time span, they're entering now what's going to be their 10th season. They just finished up their 9th season a couple months ago. And to be adding that many teams on top of the number of players that they added, correct?
That's correct. So you're talking about the rosters. They carry a full-size NFL-type roster. So there's 53 players on each roster. So when you're talking about adding 7 new teams to the mix, or I should say 6 new teams to the mix, you're talking a big influx of players. So the Combine, in and of itself, is an opportunity for the existing players, as well as it was opened up to high school juniors and seniors, to have an opportunity to showcase their skills and abilities. As you said, for college scouts, some professional scouts, it's an opportunity for some of these players to get to the next level. But if not, they're here to be able to participate and maybe get in front of the eyes of some of the coaches for the Gridiron Football League, which is an amateur league.
Absolutely, and it even allows the current members of the Gridiron Football League to try and impress some of the professional scouts that are out there. Obviously, there are leagues above the GFL, so for the current players to be able to showcase their talents and possibly get noticed by somebody, or even if they're still looking to go to college at this point in time. Obviously, the GFL is doing everything it can to try and help the local community and its local athletes in order to achieve their dreams, and I think this Combine is a great opportunity for all the athletes to be able to represent themselves and to be able to really, especially the high school juniors and seniors. This is an opportunity that most of them never get. There's not many combines like this around in the area that allow specifically for high school players. So with the collegiate scouts here, hopefully at least one of them will be noticed and be able to get themselves on scholarship and be able to get themselves onto a college team.
Yeah, and that's something new for this year's Combine. Last year's Combine, they had about 70 participants from the league. And again, same set of eyes. But this year, as you said, they wanted to extend into the communities that they play in. So why not invite some of the high school juniors and seniors so that they can get in front of some of these college scouts to be able to have an opportunity in one place to showcase their talent. So it's a great opportunity for the league to promote itself within the community.
On top of that, it's actually a great opportunity for the current coaches of the GFL to expand upon their rosters. So they'll be able to see some of these juniors and seniors in high school, and if they're not able to get into college, or if they want to do some work during the summer, that allows them to recruit those players to be on their team. The last 4 years, we've had the Chicago Chaos has been the league champion. So they've had a four-peat now. They won 21-8 over the Madison Wolves just this last year. And so being able to get more fresh bodies into the league and expand upon the rosters and selection for the coaches can help.
Yeah, and again, definitely, you're adding 6 more teams, 53-man rosters. So this is another set of eyes and another opportunity, kind of a preview for some of the players who may potentially play in the GFL this coming May. The 2016 season kicks off on May 14th. They play a 10-game season, and then at the end of that, they have 2 weeks of playoffs and then a championship game. So it winds up being 13 games total.
So just to break it down a little bit further, this is very similar to what you would expect to see in an NFL Combine. So we're going to have 6 different official events, and we're going to start out eventually with the 40-yard. And once we continue on with that, we are going to go to the 5-10-5 drill.
Sorry. I don't see anything. There's nothing on the monitor. Sorry. All right. All right, so we're going to get an opportunity here to be able to look into, we started with the 40-yard dash. In this event, Brett, there are 6 actual events for the Combine. So we're going to be looking at the 40-yard dash, the 5x10x5, the broad jump, the bench press, vertical leap, and then the L drill, which is also known as a 3-cone drill. So starting, we'll be looking at the 40-yard dash is usually one of the premier events within the Combine itself because everyone's interested in a player's speed.
Absolutely. It's one of the more marketable events, if you want to put it that way. We're able to see exactly how fast they are. A coach is able to see a player's explosiveness, their ability to maintain that speed through the full 40 yards. So this is obviously, it sometimes gets overblown when you put it in terms of the NFL Combine. But I think when you put it something at a local level like this, it really allows you to see each individual player and I think the most important thing for coaches is going to be able to maintain that 40 yards. If you can burst off that first 20 yards and you start to tail off just a little bit, then you're showing that you can't maintain that speed, and that's not going to be as interesting to a coach.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So we're going to get a look here. Players lining up for the 40-yard dash. And we're going to have some unofficial times. So granted, that's unofficial times you're looking in the lower left corner, but it's still a good barometer of the run. So our first run there that we've recorded was 4.60. And the other thing to remember is you're going to have players who play in different position levels. You're going to have linemen running. You're going to have skill players running, so wide receivers, running backs. You're going to see times all over the place. There's usually good times per each player position level, averages, but that's something that the scouts are going to be looking for. If you're a lineman, do you run it in such and such range? If you're a wide receiver, are you within this range?
Yeah, obviously we have averages that you can see. There you see a pretty good 4.738 time. What you typically want to see from your skill position players, so your running backs, your cornerbacks, your wide receivers, you want to see somewhere on the professional level from anywhere from a 4.5 to about a 4.7. 4.7 would be considered a little bit on the slow end, especially when it comes to wide receivers. So when you're able to see amateurs at this level be able to compete with that same speed on our unofficial clock, it really speaks to the dedication that these athletes have had, that they're able to run just almost at the same speed as they do on the NFL level.
Right. And so, and again, right, wrong, or indifferent, the 40-yard dash is usually the bellwether event within a combine, and it's something that speaks to a player's overall ability to succeed in the next level. The game, the higher you get, whether it's in collegiate level or pro level, is speed. And so the faster you are, the more you're going to be able to keep up with the competition in the league.
Absolutely. So, and obviously there's different things for every position. So when you get down to your offensive linemen or your defensive linemen, you're not expecting that same speed. What you can typically expect for your offensive guards and tackles are anywhere, usually around the 5.3 range is what you would expect to see. It shows that they can get off the snap well. If you do pull a guard on a run play or something like that, you can see how well they're able to get out in space and be able to keep up with the running back in order to do that lead block.
Right. Yeah, and you're looking for speed in short distances too, so a lot of the linemen, they're operating within a phone booth, kind of to use as an adage or a comparison there. So you're looking for any quick speed burst off the line that you can to make a difference, whether you're a defensive lineman trying to chase down a quarterback or running back, or if you're an offensive lineman, especially on the edge, you need to have some quickness there too and be able to and you're going to see some of that in the agility drills when we get to those as well.
Absolutely. So here you can see we got another one lined up right here. Looks like he might be trying to take after Odell Beckham Jr. with the hairstyle a little bit. And really, that's when it comes to these things, there's 3 ways to get noticed. You can be good, you can be bad, or you can be interesting. As long as you can be one of those 3 things, you got yourself already ahead of the pack. As long as you're not part of the bad part, obviously. And a pretty good time there with the 4.771.
Yeah.
I'd imagine he's part of the skills group, and being able to compete at that speed is pretty good at this level.
There's some long strides there.
Which really is the way that it should be done. That's the way that's the way you're taught to run. It's a little bit more difficult for some people. That guy had the height and the legs to do it with.
Yeah, I was curious if he was in a tight end position, with the size that he had. Could have been a lineman too.
So I think what this also allows us to see, as we go along throughout the broadcast, we'll break down what the coaches are going to be looking for. We'll obviously also throughout the event we'll have some on the sideline interviews. We've got Rob Griffin down on the field. He'll be looking for people to interview. Hopefully we'll get to talk to some of the players. We'll get to talk to some of the coaches, and hopefully for the players we'll get to see what they're hoping to get out of this event. What personally, some of them may have different goals. And for the coaches, hopefully we'll be able to see what it exactly is they're looking for depending on what level they're at. If they're a pro scout, if they're an amateur scout, or just a coach in the GFL, if they're scouting, junior or senior in high school.
Exactly. And we know the coaches from the league, the GFL, they're going to be busy here looking at some of the talent while the Combine is going on. Matter of fact, a lot of them are assisting with the Combine drills to speak so. But we do hope to get an opportunity to interview some of the coaches, kind of get their thoughts on how the Combine's going in their eyes, as well as what it means to them. What does it mean to the league? And, we talk about a secondary purpose for the Combine being an opportunity maybe to see new talent. One of the things we want to talk to them about is building up these new rosters. How is that going to work when you're adding 6 new teams? How do those rosters get filled? So, that's something that I'm sure the Combine might be a start to that equation, and we'll learn more as we go throughout the day today.
Absolutely. It's really a means to an end, because you're going to get some players who hopefully get recognized by the professional scouts or by collegiate scouts. And you may lose some of those players, but that's what you want to see. You want to be able to see people in this league, an amateur league, be able to make their way up. If they're able to, expand upon their football career, I think the GFL is going to be really happy that they're doing what they want to do for the community.
Exactly.
And it is interesting to note some of the things you see different people wearing. Obviously, at the NFL Combine, you've got a very set uniform standard. Makes it very easy to see, and everything is extremely aerodynamic. So you can see which players ahead of time are, thinking about it. Just the loosest T-shirt could cause you to lose several valuable tenths of a second.
Hi, folks. I'm Rob Griffin. We live here at the Mack Center, and we're here for the Gridiron football tryouts here with Dominique Banks. So, Dominique, what are you looking to gain out of Combine?
Let's get some work in, get some good numbers, clocking good, just to see where I'm at, see where I have to go, see where I can train at, what to get better at, and what to do to go harder.
Okay, and what are you looking to do plan for the off season?
Just go hard, man. Just go hard, be the best I can be. Push myself to the limit. Don't give up. Just grind, man.
Okay, I hear you. Thanks a lot. Good luck with your season, and take it back to Chris.
Alrighty, thank you, Rob.
All right, thanks, Rob.
Like we said, that's a great interview. You can see there the drive that these athletes really do have. They want this. They're not just here because it's a hobby or something that they do on the side. They love the game of football as it's grown in popularity over the years, and to see Dominique have that drive to want to grind the entire offseason just to get better, I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, the Combine, that's what it's about. It's about getting an opportunity to get to that next level. So you're not coming to a Combine just to, stretch out, just to exercise. A Combine is a serious event. You're in front of different talent evaluators for whether it's collegiate or different pro-level teams. So you want to be able to show your best. You don't want to come out here and embarrass yourself. So like you said, it may not lead to where they want to go, but they're definitely taking it serious to what they would like to do and where they'd like to go.
Absolutely. And another thing you got to keep in mind here with these athletes is going to be their endurance throughout the day. So this is just the first of 6 actual events, followed by which they will have their own individual drills that they'll do after, depending on their position group. But starting with the 40, this is a pretty physically demanding challenge. It's going to be the one where is going to be the shortest burst of maximum effort throughout the entire day. So you have to be able to spread your endurance or have a high enough endurance that you're going to be able to make it through all 6 events, giving it 100% on each and everything, because you don't want to be let down by any one of your times or reps in any of the other events.
And you saw a great time there. We had a 4.3 unofficial time on that last run there. So again, cycling through the different position players. The groups are broken down into groups of 10. We don't know if they're broken down specifically by positions or just 10 groups and they're mixed positions. We've seen a lot of different body sizes, a 4.5 time on that last run there. So, we're seeing a mix, I think, of positions. So if I were to guess, it's probably not broken down specifically by position at this point.
Right. Look here, we might have another Odell Beckham style haircut that we got. But I think you're right. There's been a bit of a wide range of times. We've seen some pretty fast times, especially at this level. Anytime you can get 4.5 or under, that's pretty impressive.
That's Odell Beckham Jr.'s larger brother, though. I wouldn't say that's his little brother.
That's Odell Beckham Sr.
Yeah, that's right. So again, more 40-yard dashes to come here. You got one who's kind of in the warm-up slot and then one ready to go.
It is interesting to see the different warm-ups that each person has for this specific. Another great time with the 4.437 there, unofficial. And here comes another one going down the line. And again, it's really impressive how GFL set this up at the Mac Center to be able to get all of this in, to be able to get the hundreds of athletes that they have, be able to get them through each of these drills fast and efficiently.
Yeah, it's a lot of coordination. You're talking about 6 different events, especially the bench press too. So the bench press is a little bit different. When they get into that, there's an actual weight room where the bench press is actually going to be executed. So it's not necessarily out on the field, so there has to be some coordination sort of with an off-field activity that's in a different component of this venue. But the venue is great. You look at the size of the Mac Center here, it can fit a large number of activities and be able to host an event such as this.
Yeah, the venue is phenomenal. I've walked down basically the whole thing. It's about 2 soccer fields long. Beyond that, there's volleyball and basketball courts.
Wow.
We've been down on the field itself, too. The field itself is AstroTurf, obviously, being indoors. Mm-hmm. So it's actually going to allow the athletes to be able to run as fast as possible, because typically you're going to run faster on the light AstroTurf than you are going to be in grass or anything like that.
And most combine situations, I think, for the most part, look to be indoors when they can. Obviously, the NFL Combine itself is done indoors in Indianapolis, so that's the premier combine. But there's other combine events that take place throughout the country, and you do want to do it in a controlled environment. The game's not always played that way, but you at least want to do it in a controlled environment so you can measure everyone on equal terms.
Absolutely. It makes it a little bit easier. Lucas Oil Stadium is absolutely beautiful and a great place for them to run the combine with the roof being retractable. Right. And even on specific player pro days, you'll typically see them do it on the turf so that they are allowed to have an equal playing field. If everyone's not running on some sort of AstroTurf when it comes to the 40-yard dash or the 3-cone drill or anything like that, the results aren't going to be quite as even throughout.
All right. So, and then from a scouting standpoint, we talked about with the Combine event itself, in years past and this year as well, we're looking at have some college-level scouts here, scouts from pro league, so that might be the next step for players who are in the GFL today. That could be Arena League. Last year there was representation from the Canadian Football League, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I think there's an expectation that they might be here today as well. So you're talking about having some of these players get in front of different organizations that might get them an opportunity to get to that next level. Yeah,
absolutely, and really, you got to think it can be a lot of pressure on the athletes as well. If you know somebody's here from the CFL and you have the opportunity to make an impression on that person, it can be a lot of pressure. I don't know if you've ever been professionally scouted for any sport or anything like that, but it can be a little nerve-wracking to know that there's a scout on the sidelines or in the stands and that everything that you do is going to be scrutinized down to the smallest detail.
Yeah, and matter of fact, you times that maybe times 100 for a combine. That's the only reason you're here, is to get in front of different talent evaluators. So it's one thing when you're actually playing a game, you're in the pace of the game and you're doing what you're doing. You may know scouts are in the stands, but you still have to focus on the game at hand. When you're at a combine, the only reason you're here is to show off your skills and abilities in front of talent evaluators. So it does add an extra level of maybe tense or stress, but if you're an athlete, your focus is to tune that out and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah, we walked around a little bit, and pretty much every athlete, I can say, probably 90% of them had headphones on. They were listening to music, whether it's hype music, whether it's music to calm themselves down a little bit. Everyone had their own kind of way of getting themselves prepared for this, and I think you need to do that because you need to get yourself in that right mental state. And whether it's music, I know people who listen to audiobooks ahead of time because just having someone talk to you and not have to think about what you're heading into at that point in time can be very calming for certain people.
Yeah, and that might be a good question to ask some of the participants as well. So you did wear a headset. You were listening to something before the event. Is it the same stuff that you listen to before a game? Is it something different you chose just for the combine? I know it may sound like a minute detail, but players are big into preparation, and part of their preparation is what's the pregame music I listen to.
Yeah, and you know what? Athletes are habitual characters, and you know what? Superstition is a big thing when it comes to sports too. I bet you there's a lot of these athletes who woke up this morning and eat the same meal that they would eat on game day or something like that. And same goes for music. You might have a favorite song that you have to listen to ahead of time. But I think one of the big things that the athletes need to be focused on here is just worry about yourself. You can only control what you're doing at this event. If you see somebody run an all-time great 40, there's nothing that you can do about that. You can maybe use that as motivation to push yourself. But if you allow that to worry yourself, or if you're on the bench press and the person before you gets 30 and you're gonna hurt yourself, or if you're gonna be in the wrong mental state trying to beat that 30, it's not gonna be good for you. And you gotta they need to focus on them. They need to focus on what they do best, and they need to block out all the noise.
Now, I hate to just guess some of the player positions. You look at body types and you think that last runner, he might have been a linebacker based on how he was running in his size. You just don't know, though, because one thing about the league that you've seen in all levels of football is players of all different shapes and sizes wind up playing different positions too. You can have lighter linemen than normally you have. You can have smaller linemen. Tight ends seem to be getting bigger and bigger every year. So position sizes definitely tend to fluctuate. So it's almost impossible to peg down who we're looking at and what their role, their at least past roles have been from a position standpoint.
Yeah, you can think of just professional players who have changed position. Brian Urlacher was originally a safety when he was in college. And now we're going to go down to we're going to have another interview with Rob coming up in a little bit, I believe, and we'll send it down when he's ready. In the meantime, we'll keep watching a few more of these 40 times.
There you get a look at some of the folks who are doing some of the talent evaluation down at the field, as well as some of the coaches who are assisting, coordinating the different events that you have to shuttle back and forth between. So when you're looking at the edge line there, you're looking at some of the folks who are assisting.
Hi, I'm
with
Rob Griffin. We live here at the Mac Center for the Gridiron Football League. And I got Josh Hampton here. So Josh, what is your experience here at Combine?
This will be my second year participating in this, and it's a fun event, to come out here, showcase, our skills, all the work we've been putting in to, dedicate to a team and show a team out here, we deserve to pick up. So it's just about coming out, having fun, not taking it too serious.
Okay, so what are you looking forward to in the off season?
You always look forward to the off season. That's just where you get better, for during the season, and to show your team that you're going to be that guy that doesn't come through for them, whether they need you or not. So,
okay, good luck with your season. Nice meeting.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
All right, we'll take it back to Chris.
All right, thank you again, Rob, and obviously thank you to Josh for the interview. And I think he hit on something that we hadn't really talked about, and that's just having fun here. I think that's a really important part to what everyone here is hoping to achieve. And, football is a game in the end, and to be able to have fun and just come here, and I'm sure most people here know somebody else that they can hang out with and josh around with, and maybe poke fun at a little bit if they're competing head to head.
Yeah. So, but I also thought it interesting in that was his focus. This was his second time in the Combine. Obviously, he participated last year. So I couldn't tell if he was – maybe it was one of those things where if a talent evaluator saw him and he got offered an opportunity to move on to the next level, hey, that's great. But really, his focus was to be here to show up for the league, to show up for his team, but also have fun with it too. And some of that is performance-driven too. Maybe you can't perform at your best if you're all tight. We talked about being stressed out because you have talent evaluators. Well, when you have the folks who are having fun with it, they might be able to perform a little better. So it looks like now we're going to switch up drills, Brett?
Yeah, we're going to head on over to the 5-10-5 drill. And really what this test is going to determine is an athlete's lateral agility. So as you're going to see right here, we'll have them start the drill and we'll explain. They're going to run from one side to the other. They're going to start. Okay, let's simplify it. They're going to start in the middle cone that you see there. They're going to choose one direction, left or right, that they're going to head to. They're going to sprint to that cone. They will sprint all the way back to the other cone, and then they'll have to run across back towards the middle. So you see he goes 5 yards, 10 yards across, and then 5 yards back to the middle. So really what you're seeing is how quick can an athlete change directions on the fly, typically in terms of lateral movement, moving left to right.
Right. Right there. You got it. And that happens you look at a football game, any level of football, the offensive player has the advantage. They have the ability to make the cut. The defensive player doesn't always necessarily know where you're going. So whether you're an offensive player or a defensive player, you have to have that lateral agility, and it's such a key component in this game.
Mm-hmm. And I think the way they have it set up here is really interesting, and maybe they're trying to motivate each other, and on top of speeding things up, you're seeing two different athletes competing at the drill at the exact same time. So not only are you trying to impress the coach who's right in front of you or the scout on the sideline, you're directly competing a lot of the time to the person that's right across from you, and you need to be able to block him out and just do your thing.
I think one thing we may want to get this question down there from Rob is, are the participants hearing their time? So maybe Rob can find that out for us. Are they hearing the times when they're done with each drill so that they can take away, so that they know how their competition did, how they know they did themselves personally? So I'd be curious to know if they're at least getting told what their times were when they finished.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, and you have to imagine each one of these athletes in their free time is practicing each of these drills, and whether it's a family member or a friend, they're getting timed. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be able to take what they've done today and compare it to how they've done in the past, and hopefully they're able to put their best out there today.
Correct.
And really, you think of this drill, you can think of how important it is for each position level. The main thing I think of when I think of this drill would be an inside linebacker. You think of Brian Urlacher or Luke Kuechly of the Panthers, and one of the biggest things they have on their side is speed and their ability to get from one side of the field to the other side of the field, if a running back does make that cut or something like that. But obviously it is important for each position. You think, same thing, a lineman being able to take off the snap and be able to pull to one side to get a block or something like that.
I do think your linebacker analogy is probably the best one, though, from the standpoint, you're going to have, and depending upon the type of defense you're in and where you are as a linebacker, are you an outside linebacker, are you an inside linebacker, what's your role? Are you going to have to patrol the medium point of the field, so are you out there covering in the flat? So you have to be able to have some of that sideline to sideline speed, and this is a good drill to demonstrate some of that. Yeah,
and really it allows you to see on each position level. So it's something you might not think is as important. You think of a D tackle. You may not think has to worry too much about lateral movement, but it could be that one move, left or right, that stops and stuffs a run, where the running back cuts back to try and get to an open lane, and you're able to clog it.
Yep. So while the 5-10-5 is going on, there still are 40-yard dashes that are being taken place. So, again, they're bringing out folks in groups of 10 to complete each of the drills based on the number of participants we have there. We don't have the final number or the total number as people are still coming in, registering, getting into their groups, and running their time. So But we do have different shuttle stations. Again, we're talking about the 40-yard dash. We saw a little bit of that first. We're looking at the 5x10x5 now. We're going to do bench press. We're going to do broad jump. We're going to do vertical leap and the L drill 3-cone. So hopefully I didn't leave anything out there.
No, I think other than we'll have the individual drills all the way at the end of it. Other things you see at the combine, like running across the field and catching passes from each side if you're a wide receiver or tight end, things like that. So beyond the other ones that you had listed, I think that's all that they'll have to worry about today.
Right. So all of the staged events, the 6 key events are taking place first, and then as you said, the individual pass catch drills, things like that, the individual skill drills will take place after this portion. And
I really think that's where some people have the chance to shine, because those are the different activities that are meant specifically for your position group. And here you get a shot of the vertical jump, and you'll see a little bit different variation of how they're measuring it. Instead of the long jump up and you smack those sticks as high as you can, they have a pad here. If you wanted to, if you would be able to explain a little bit better.
Yeah. So, and it shouldn't necessarily change how the athlete jumps. They should still jump the same as if they were reaching for some sort of platform. The difference is the pad is actually measuring the jump from the time that they leave until the time that they come back down. There's obviously calculations that are taking place in there, of which I don't know the calculation, nor am I going to try and attempt to share it with you. Let's just say that they know what they're doing, and that's their method of being able to measure how high they're jumping. And vertical jump is a big part of football as well. You're talking especially when you're talking about your wide receivers and your cornerbacks, ball's thrown up for grabs, who's going to be able to go up and get it? So your vertical jump, especially for those skill type positions, is so key.
Yeah, you think of a cornerback and a wide receiver going head to head on a jump ball, and especially wide receivers have the advantage in some of those situations. So I really think for cornerbacks or safeties that have to compete with the Calvin Johnsons who are over 6'6" and things like that, I think the vertical jump is extremely important for them to be able to showcase, hey, I may be giving up 3 or 4 inches in terms of height, but I can out jump that person and be able to make up that height.
Right. And a great point. Receivers seem to be getting taller and taller, but I wouldn't necessarily say the cornerbacks are. The cornerbacks are typically still around the same size, 6 foot, maybe 6'2". You might have some outliers there, but rarely are you finding cornerbacks that match some of the size of these large receivers. So how are you going to make up for it? Well, some of that's your coverage skills, number one. But number two, then, when a ball is up for grabs and you have to fight for it in some of those jump ball scenarios, that's where your vertical leap is going to come into play. And so this is an important drill for the coaches and scouts to be able to measure that.
Yeah, definitely. And it really makes tall cornerbacks really at a premium, or ones who have a great vertical jump. You think of even the Bears last year. They had Martellus Bennett, Brandon Marshall, and Alshon Jeffrey, who are all over 6'4". So you basically have a basketball team there rather than a group of receivers. So when you see cornerbacks like Patrick Peterson or Richard Sherman who are able to cover them despite being able to give up a few inches, you have to know not only is there the coverage ability with your agility and your acuity, your mental acuity in terms of coverage, but the ability to go up and defend the pass to be able to be on the same height plane as those tall wide receivers.
Now, the good thing about the Combine, though, itself is, and it replicates what really happens in football, it's great that you have these measurements in speed and your leaping ability and your broad jump and the L drills and the cone drills and all that. But then some of the individual football-related drills are a way of seeing how do you then take some of those components and put it together in live action. That's where the individual drills portion of the Combine will really get a peek into that, because you could be the fastest guy out there, but if you can't piece it together from a football standpoint, it's not going to be able to bring you the success that you need.
And you'll see that, you've seen different stories. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Usain Bolt had a football tryout for the Lions, I want to say. Mm-hmm. But just because you have one tool doesn't mean you have the ability to play football. You have to be able to, like you said, piece it together to have those multiple athletic traits that you can use and put it all together and and find out what you're good at. And so what you're seeing here is, I think, what you kind of see is for all these events, it can be just as important for other positions. So we've seen some guys who might not be part of the wide receiver, cornerback groups, and you can see D lineman, a very underrated position when it comes to your vertical, because as a D lineman, you need to be able to get up and deflect passes. Not something you would originally think about, but if they can just get that extra inch or two and just get that finger on a football that's from the quarterback, it can make all the difference.
Maybe even block a field goal or an extra point, So there's so many different ways you can affect an outcome of the game. Football isn't necessarily the game of inches. Baseball is usually the game of inches they talk about, but in reality, in football, there are things that happen throughout the course of a game that could change the outcome by one measure, one small play. And going up and blocking a kick is one of those. Going up and knocking down a pass. Maybe that pass gets knocked down into another defender's hand and you have an interception. So all of these things come to play. There's a reason why they chose these 6 drills for the Combine events.
I'd be interested to know how the players feel about this different type of vertical jump testing, if only because it obviously is faster, and I'm sure actually the measurements are extremely accurate, because that pad is not only measuring time, but it's measuring the force that's exerted on the player's jump and the force that hits the pad on the way back down. But I think the big difference is that the player basically has just that small pad to land on. Mm-hmm. If they miss that pad, then they might have to re-jump or won't get a completely accurate measurement. Whereas with the sticks, as long as you jump up as high as you can, you don't really have to worry about landing in a specific square.
And I think we've seen some of that in action. We've seen a few players go through the drill and have to repeat it because maybe they weren't able to get a reading based on how they landed. Like you can see here, he wasn't able to land on the pad, so he's going to have to be able to land both feet on the pad for them to get an effective reading. So he's going to have to retake that.
And there we go. But,
Yeah.
You never know what kind of an effect that can have from your first jump to your second jump. You get a little bit more tired, or just, you think of a field goal kicker having one kick that they have, or a punter where they punt, and the next one just doesn't go quite as far because you've got just that little bit of lactic acid buildup, and just that little bit of extra effort that you exerted for the first time, you might not have that extra boost the next time.
All right, guys. Chris Laboska here, jumping on really quick to explain what we're looking at here for the vertical jump. You see there's a pad there on the ground. That is what they're jumping, and that pad is actually giving a reading for how high they're jumping. There's a remote that's attached that tells them. So for that's what they're doing to determine the vertical jumps and how high they're getting into the air.
And one of the things Brett and I were just talking about, Chris, was the fact that we've seen some players have to retake it because they weren't landing back on the pad after the jump.
Right.
So they've been asked to go through either a second or third time until they were able to land square on the pad to get an effective measurement.
And the other thing is just like everything else they've done, they're doing more than one 40 time. They're doing more than one vertical jump.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really a big difference between here and you see at the NFL Combine. Basically, there you get one shot at the 40 and you're pretty much done. And yeah, obviously you can have your pro days and everything like that. But I think that's a big advantage that they have here at this Combine.
Yeah, because I think we've seen a couple of guys do things more than once. And, here's the thing, too. It's not like you have the instruments either that are being used by the NFL where it's so precise. So you want more than one reading so that way you can kind of get a better average to know what somebody is doing for their different times and for their different heights and everything else.
And speaking of different events now, we're going to look here at the broad jump. So from a standing position, you're going to measure kind of your burst, how much distance you can get from a standing position and burst out.
Yeah, one word that I think of when I see this drill is the term explosion. It's not technically a football term, and we thank Chris for stopping by to explain the vertical jump to us. So this broad jump, I think explosion. It's going to be able to see how powerful are your legs that you can push off using all of your body weight, and to be able to really, you want to be able to see their balance too, because you want to see them land as best as they can.
Right, that's the other thing. To do this successfully, they're looking for them to land square and to land on their feet, hopefully to be able to be upright as best as they can be.
Yeah, we just saw he was pretty excited about his jump there. He was already still high-fiving people on the sidelines. And really, but being able to balance yourself, what it also does is it makes the measurement a lot easier to read. As you can see, they don't have sand here in order to measure where their distance is. So they have to stick that landing, and they're using what looks to be that yardstick there to measure what the actual distance is.
Right. So, form is key. Form is key coming out of the jump. Form is key coming back into the landing as well. But obviously the distance is what they're looking for.
And this is one thing I think you're going to see a lot more people be a little bit more emotional about, because it is so easy to do this and test yourself at home and see what your jump is. So another one, he's a little excited there. Nice little clap afterwards. So I think be able to do these at home and be able to come here and compare what you've done. And obviously still a good job there getting the measurement. But that's where you want to be able to see that balance, to be able to land well enough that you can see he's going to have balance if he's on the field, if that's an O lineman or D lineman, to be able to stay on his feet and to be able to stay in the play.
Well, if you think about where burst is important in so many different aspects. So if you're a skill position, if you're a wide receiver, burst off the offensive line. If you're a running back, burst into the hole. If you're an offensive lineman, burst, power, thrust, moving forward. And then on the defensive side, same thing. So if you're a cornerback, being able to push them on the edge, and if you're a defensive lineman, getting at to the quarterback, you got to push back that offensive line, linebackers, all of that. Burst is so important.
Absolutely, especially you think for the defensive lineman, if you're going to do a bull rush where your plan is just to power through that offensive tackle or guard, to have that initial burst from a standpoint, just as they're doing in the drill, it's going to be huge as to whether you can get that little extra force that can knock the offensive lineman on their back.
All right, guys, I have a quick update for you. We've been watching the broad jump here on our quad view, and just got in that 9.8 feet or 9 feet 8 inches is the biggest jump that we've had so far. Wide receiver who did it, and so still going on, of course, but early on 9.9. I keep saying 9.8, 9 feet 8 inches.
I mean that's pretty impressive. I mean, you think in terms of your own body height, that is 1.5 of me exactly. I'm 6'4", so you take one of me, cut me in half, and then add it again. That's how far he was able to jump, and to have that burst and that explosion is extremely impressive.
Yeah, it's about 9 feet longer than I could jump, so.
That makes two of us.
All right. That's why we're up here, Brett, and they're down there for a multitude of reasons.
Obviously, and thank you again to Chris for the update. A nice little tidbit to have. Hopefully we'll be able to stay updated in terms of if anyone is able to beat that.
That is an impressive leap, though, by the way. And I wonder if that was that one gentleman we saw who was really pumped up after that and high-fiving. I wonder if that was the one with the longest leap.
I'd imagine so. As you can see, we're getting a little bit more action cam of the 5-10-5 drill right here. It's nice we're able to bounce around and keep on tabs in terms of the events that are going on right now. Obviously, we've got a pretty packed field house. We've got some people still doing warm-ups, and I'm sure there are people doing these stretches and everything in between each event, because each one of these events uses such different muscles.
They do. So, you're getting a shot at some of the events as they're taking place, but in the background, you see some of the players in the background. They're getting ready for these different events. As you said, they're stretching out. They're running practice sprints. They're doing what they can to get ready for each individual event, and however they can do that. So we talked about the pre-event preparation, listening to music, whatever it is to get you set up for that. But then now you're actually in the combine between events, and you have to do something to get yourself mentally and physically ready for the event that's next at hand for you.
And you know what? That's a great part about the staff for the GFL. They're all out there. All the coaches are out there. They are helping these players. You've got coaches leading those drills to warm players up. You've got coaches leading all of these different timed events and all these rep-based events. So to see that the staff cares that much and they want to see these kids and these adults, some of them, succeed, I think it speaks volume to the type of people that the GFL employs.
One of the events that you don't necessarily see on the field, but we will have coverage of as well, is the bench press. So the bench press will be coming up soon. As we talked about in the introduction, the bench press is going to actually take place in a weight room that's right adjacent to the field here, the facility here in the Mac Center. So we will have our cameras in there, and we'll be able to look at the bench press. What I think we'll look to find out from that is, from an NFL standpoint, we don't know if they're following the same method at the NFL. The bench press starts at 225 pounds in the NFL bench press drill. Don't know if that's the starting weight for this combine. If it is, then they're going to look to see how many reps that they can do at that weight. But obviously this is the strength portion you're talking about. You talk about some of the bursts with the broad jump. Well, then you have to be able to offset that with some of your upper body strength. And again, that's where all positions really have to have some of that upper body strength at some point in fashion, especially when you're talking about the linemen.
Yeah, I think, and really it's a great test because it's basically the only event before you would get into any sort of individual drills. As you can see, the bench press here right now, that tests your upper body strength. Most things are speed, explosion, agility, and things like that. The bench press, you can see, really is able to test your overall strength. And it does look like they're benching at 225 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. They've got two 45-pound plates on each side. I'd imagine the bar is 45 pounds.
Yeah, that's the normal combine standard. So,
which is impressive in and of itself. I mean, you think these kids are definitely, for the most part, younger than you see the college kids going into the NFL, where at their combine you've got offensive linemen that are bench pressing 30 times, which, for me, I do that 2 or 3 times, and I'm going to be jumping for joy.
Well, and that's the thing, especially if you're specializing in a sport. So athletes who specialize in a sport, you're talking about they're going through some year-round training. And weight training is always a part of that as well, as it is in a lot of sports. All right, so it looks like asked to do 7 reps for the bench press here at 225 pounds.
I believe that is what he just did, was 7 reps.
Okay, so that's the result. Okay.
Yes, guys, it was 7 reps for the first person that we saw on the bench press. Obviously, it's do as many as you can until your arms fail.
Okay.
Right, which obviously
my arms already have failed, by the way. So.
I would say just by watching them.
If I can get 1, I would be happy.
So like we said, we're going to jump around a little bit so you guys watching can get a view of everything that's going on here today and just how taxing this can be on the athlete's body. You'd kind of have to hope that some of these people can go early on the bench press if they're confident in their upper body strength. If you're confident in your 40 speed, you're going to want to be able to do that first because that's going to be your best event while you're at your most fresh.
And here's the thing too, guys, the bench press, optional. So you don't have to do it, is the nice thing. So you can just focus on the other things, more of the skilled stuff. But it is there for you to do it if you want to. And obviously it's something that will help you if you're trying to get looked at. Your physical strength, especially with your upper body, is an important part of football.
Definitely, that would make me think of one of those things where when you're on a sports team and they say practice is optional, they're probably expecting you to show up, but they're not going to really punish you if you don't.
As somebody who is a coach, I always would say that we have clinics that are optional, but so is playing time. So. Yeah, it's optional, but usually you want to do the optional things.
And, you can understand, you'd hope most of your linemen and probably linebackers would be doing the bench press.
Of course.
Maybe you understand if a safety or maybe even a quarterback isn't doing it, because quarterbacks, you can see their arm strength and how they throw, whereas the rest of their strength might not make as big of a difference to a coach.
I think it was Brady Quinn who did, lineman reps. And what's Brady Quinn doing right now as far as a quarterback?
Well, nothing right now. Now he's doing commentating.
Yes, exactly. So I think your point is right that it's more positional based. Obviously, your offensive linemen, you definitely want to see what they can do. And even then, I think you more want to see what their max is than anything else, than just how many reps they can do. I think that it's
I wouldn't necessarily just say max. Max is good,
right?
But max number of reps, because one of the things they're looking for is durability. So if you're able to push that 225 pounds, 8 reps, 10 reps, whatever that is, then you're showing your ability to fight in the trenches for a longer period of time. Anyone can lift I shouldn't say anyone, you know, but most of these athletes can lift that 225 one time. How many times can they lift it, though, to show some of that durability that's going to be taxed on throughout the game?
Yeah, I'm sure both are appreciative to be known by a coach, because you think, your max would allow you maybe to see how much pressure you can take when you've got a 330-pound defensive tackle charging in on you. Whereas, like you said, when you're in the trenches for over 40, 50 plays a game, then your body's going to be taxed. You're going to want to be able to see how well their body can hold up as they wear down a little bit.
And Chris brought up the fact that this is optional for the players, but we talked about maybe the linemen wanting to do it. Also, probably one of the things that may factor in that decision is how did they do in some of those other individual drills. So if maybe the 40-yard dash or the L drill or the broad jump wasn't necessarily their best drill, but if they know this is a drill that they do well and it's something that they can stand out in, especially if they're a lineman, then they'll probably choose to do it.
Yeah, and you can think of different kinds of offenses that it'd be applicable for. You think of a spread offense. You're going to want an O-lineman who is a little bit faster, has more agility, where his strength might not be quite as important. Here we're giving you guys a look at the L drill, really kind of testing, again, a player's ability to change direction and maintain speed.
Not just change direction, but also go around and then go and then make another cut. It's different where you have that right cut and left cut, not just where you have the 5-10-5 where it's just a more lateral movement.
Yeah, your ability to change angles on the fly, really. So instead of just moving left and right, your ability to go diagonally or anything like that.
Yeah, so it's more about head-on speed and then making that quick turn, especially when you think about wide receivers. The L drill is basically them running an in route.
Right. And this is the last drill that you're getting to see as a viewer. So we've showed you all the other 5 drills. So this was the last drill that we hadn't had a shot of, and now you're starting to get to see how the L drill is worked and all the other drills we've had leading up to this point.
And then they'll go on to individuals after all of this is done. So that is the next step after they get through this.
So if you're a player, your drills, and again, being that the bench press is optional, the circuit runs in the order of the 40-yard dash, the 5x10x5, the broad jump, the bench press, again, bench press being optional, the vertical leap, and then the L drill or the 3-cone, which is the one that we're showing you right now. So that's the sequence that takes place for the circuit as they shuttle through each group of 10 players through each of the circuits here.
Right, and it's interesting to be able to watch and see their reactions if these athletes are taxed when they get to the later rounds of it. That's what I think is interesting about having the bench press be kind of towards the middle of it. You get to see, you're not fresh out of your car. You're not fresh after listening to your pump-up music and stretching. You've had to do a couple of different workouts so far, and to be able to see after a little bit of attrition, how's your body holding up? And I think it's really important for a coach to see that. They don't want anybody can show up and, again, not just anybody, but anybody can show up and do one thing that they're really good at.
Right.
But to be able to put it all together in a place like this, I think, really shows the athlete's overall ability and allows a coach to better judge them.
All right, now we're getting a cutaway at 40 yards, so it looks like we're going to have some more 40-yard dashes to take a look at here.
Which is 4.87, not too bad depending on the position group. And like I said, you got to figure some of these people, and just so we can keep stating it, these are unofficial times.
Correct.
But I think they're a good benchmark for us to be able to kind of get a glimpse as to what about their speed is at. Unfortunately, we don't get the results for some of the other things until a little bit later on. You can see we have another one going down the 40-yard dash. We might have a little late, but again, long, impressive strides. And really, I think that as the event continues, we're going to see a few more people getting a little bit tired.
So one of the things, in the far corner, that's where the actual event is taking place. So you see that participant there, and he's in his current run. But when we go back and we show you the next runner, and then you're going to see some of the participants lined up along the side there, they're looking at their technique. They're looking at how they get out of the box. So that's a big thing for the 40.
And we can go back to the bench press. We can get a live shot of it to see how this participant does.
Got 8 so far. 9. 10.
And you obviously know that coach is the good thing they have the spotter there. The coach, that spotter, is able to give minimum support to that athlete without being able to provide any of the lift so that you can get an accurate read as to what the athlete is actually doing.
Yeah, so you're right. Safety, obviously, you don't want that barbell crashing down on the participant there, so you have to have a spotter when you're talking about free weights. But then, as you said, it's just more so alignment, allow the player to get through as many reps as they can, but then they have to look out for the safety of the player as well.
Right, and obviously technique plays a big part in the bench press, which might not be what a lot of people think about right away, but you want to have your elbows go directly at a 90-degree angle. See, he might be coming down a little bit too low as his arms are bending forward just enough where it could be weakening what he's got and what he's doing. You see the coach is giving him a little bit of help, but you got to commend them for being able to push through. I think at this point the coach is just there ready in case worse comes to worse.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He didn't look satisfied though with his particular effort there. Probably having a camera on him too probably didn't help either. But
hey, that's part of it. If you want to make it to the big show someday, the cameras are going to be there. And they always are going to be. So you have to be able to perform at your best in front of the camera. You think the entire NFL Combine is broadcasted, and they go through each individual event for each individual position group, and you get to judge them side by side. And I think that it's a little bit less pressure on them not to have to worry about that quite as much, as you see an impressive go of it right now.
He's got 10 reps so far. Nice and clean, too. The weights aren't moving around.
And that's like we said, technique can be huge when it comes to the bench press.
And that's something that the talent evaluators are looking at as well. So you're able to lift it, but are you able to lift it clean? You're more in control of the weight.
And really just having that, technique can be taught. But to have that technique already, you now know that that's somebody
15.
With 15 reps. Not only does he have an impressive total, that's something that he could build upon because he has the technique, he has the base body for it. So now he's going to be able to go on and hopefully be able to raise that number as he continues his career.
And here's another thing. You can't assume just by how that participant looks when they go to sit down to do the bench how much they're going to be able to bench. No matter how cut they look, so on and so forth, it is about technique and it is about duration and durability there. So how many are you going to be able to deliver?
Right, and Chris made a great point early when talking about Brady Quinn. You don't go into the Combine or anything like this expecting a quarterback to put up huge rep numbers. So there's always going to be people who surprise you, maybe either way. He doesn't look too satisfied with his results either, so you never know what you're going to get. Looks like we might have Eddie Lacy on the bench here.
That's big, powerful arm. So going into it, you'd expect that he's going to have a good rep count here. You don't know, though.
Right. It's obviously more. It's just as much about your ability to get your core and your chest into this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to commend these people. Obviously, it is optional, but for them to be willing to put themselves on the line, on camera, and be able to show off to the interwebs and be able to show off to the coaches and scouts what you can do is it takes a lot of guts.
Absolutely. And one thing, at least early on, that we've been seeing in the bench press that's held true is that we haven't seen a whole lot of skilled players into the weight room so far. It's been some of the lineman type and maybe linebackers that are in there, but again, we don't know specifically, from a position standpoint, who plays what. We're just working it off of assumptions.
Right, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit more variation as the day goes on. We've still got several players to get through each of the drills. You see another impressive go of it here.
And again, nice and clean, nice and steady, so it's not rocking around, getting a little assistance, but still supporting most of the weight himself.
And the small thing to keep in mind is that when you do this or anything else at this event is what your attitude is afterwards. You saw somebody else be a little bit downtrodden before when it comes to their bench press. Are you able to wipe that from your memory and move on to the next event and kill it? You don't want to be able to. You don't want to have that stuck in your head all day and be carrying that around with you throughout the events.
So another 15 reps. So At least as we've been recording it, that's been the high. So we've seen someone hit that a couple times, and then prior to that, there was a 14 repper there too.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting by the end of the day to see what some of the record highs are for most of these events. In terms of, we obviously don't have the official times quite yet for the 40 or for the other drills, but we obviously keep an eye on the bench press and things like that.
So right now you're looking at a shot of the 3-cone here. No, I'm sorry, this isn't the 3-cone. This is the 5x10x5.
Yep.
Right. I got my cones mixed up there.
There's just so many of them.
Right, yeah.
And here you get the dual shot again.
Yeah, the only cone I know is at Baskin Robbins, Brett. I'll have to be honest. So
I'm right there with you. Yeah, you can see, you just got to imagine what, you've got one person who's literally running right in front of your face and be able to keep focus on just the person in front of you and when he's going to tell you to go.
And I don't know if they've added the second layer of cones there, but it looks like they may be doubling up on the space for the participants for the 5x10x5, so that way then they can get more players through it. I don't recall that when we were looking at the first set. Maybe it was, and I just wasn't paying attention, but it is a way of getting them the groups through quicker when you're able to double up like that.
Yeah, and you've seen you can see on the side there's some people who are just, they're having fun. There's like the man right there in the center of your screen, he's just playing catch with somebody on the other side of the field house. Mm-hmm. So you can see these people are here, they're having fun, and they're doing what they really enjoy doing. And it is interesting to see kind of as the day goes on. I'm pretty sure I'm seeing less and less shirts on as we get a little bit further into the afternoon.
Yes, I can promise all viewers, though, my shirt will remain on throughout the duration of this broadcast. So if there was any concerns, let me quell that right now. You
could be letting down some people right now, Eric. You never know.
I don't think so. That was a pretty good run. So just about 5. And again, for a big man, without knowing what position type he had, but that looked to be a pretty decent run.
We'll take you back to shots of the vertical jump here. You can see he might have landed off the pad as he has to do his jump again. And it's interesting to see just the different types of technique that these athletes are using with that different vertical jump pad. So when you see people in the NFL Combine doing the vertical jump, it's basically the same thing because they're trying to reach their one hand as high as they can to move the sticks. Right. Whereas here, they do different things with their legs. They do different things with their arms. You've seen some people raise them over your heads. Some people keep them at their sides. So it's a little bit interesting to see the different variations in technique that people are using based off of the different system.
The one thing that may be different for them doing the vertical jump this way is that they have to focus more on the landing versus when you're doing it when you're trying to extend as high as you can. You may not be thinking as much of the landing. You still have to land well to get the measurement, but when you're talking about getting the actual measurement itself, it's so important that they land back on that pad.
Which I think can be maybe, and I think a lot of times you can look at this type of measurement. It could be more beneficial because you've got people who maybe on a jump they didn't quite extend their arms as far as they can, and there's not as variation. Maybe somebody doesn't. When they're measuring before the start of the jump, maybe they're not quite extending their arm all the way and they're giving themselves an extra inch or two. Whereas here, there's nothing that you can really do to cheat the system.
So we're going to get another look here at the 40-yard. But again, we talked about some of the folks that are practicing before they go for their dash, and it's all about practicing their jump, their start. Once you start running is running, but to be able to maximize your run, it's how do you get out of the gate? How is your technique when you're getting up from the stance to push? And so all the participants that are practicing getting ahead for the 40-yard dash, they're working on their start.
And really your start is extremely important in just about every single one of these. You think of the 40-yard dash, how you build your acceleration. You think of the 5x10x5 drill, how fast you're able to get off the block and how fast you're able to restart your momentum going the opposite direction. Maybe you don't think of the vertical quite as much because it's one jump, but especially the 40-yard dash, you think you're building your acceleration off that initial bit of explosion. And if you get off to a bad start, it's no different than stealing a base in baseball. If you don't get a good jump, you don't have the same speed that you would normally have going throughout your entire run.
Right. Yeah, technique is so important. Start is so important. Every play, every whistle, no matter what position you're in, it's about your preparation until that whistle's blown or when the ball's snapped. Are you prepared for the play that's at hand? What is it that you need to do if you're an offensive lineman for that particular play? What if I'm a wide receiver? Where am I going? How do I get off the blocks?
You get another look at the L drill here, which we haven't seen quite as much of. So it's going to be good to see exactly how these athletes are reacting. We'll get another good shot of the 40 here. You can see he shot out of the gate very well, and he was able to keep that momentum going. He had a strong burst. You see some people that don't push off quite as hard, and it's going to be harder for them to maintain that speed as they get down to the last 10, 15 yards.
Right. And running techniques. What do they do with their arms when they run? How are their legs looking? Are they running high with their legs? Are they extending them out? What are they doing? That helps them once they get out of the gate, out of the block, to help them with their running style.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to coaching. There was a group here before the Combine started where it looked to be they were working on, before they actually started their football drills, they were working on what appeared to be speed drills. So, you work on the ladders, you work on obviously doing just these drills themselves. You can see a little bit of a spill there, but prior to that spill, he had good, quick feet going.
Right.
So you're able to, the quicker your feet are, the more you're able to adjust and change direction. So if you've got a coach who is able to know the drills and know the exercises that are going to maximize your foot agility, it's going to be especially important here at the 5-10-5 drills in the L.
So as we saw that gentleman take a little bit of spill while he was doing the L drill, that brings into question the footwear is important for these players as well. So you're going to be, if you're going to be on an AstroTurf field for this Combine event, did you have to wear different type of shoes or cleats that you normally wear when you're playing? And where do you normally play? Do you play on an AstroTurf field? A lot of high schools have AstroTurf fields now. Some of the leagues may be playing on AstroTurf fields. So, did you change up your footwear when you came into this Combine?
Yeah, you'd hope to think so. You'd imagine a lot of the players down there right now have rubber spikes on. A lot of places don't allow metal cleats onto the AstroTurf. It's not good for the turf, and really it's not as easy to run on when you have metal cleats in terms of AstroTurf. So you'd imagine most of these athletes have rubber cleats on. That's kind of what we had seen when we were walking around prior to the event starting. But you're absolutely right. The footwear is important because how loose they're tied. If there's something that happens that causes you to fall down, part of that is keeping your body in control. So you want to be able to. You can be as fast as you want, but if you can't control it, then you're not using your asset to the best of your ability.
Well, and not only that, so cleats, rubber cleats, but there's different cleat sizes. So the length of the cleat itself, they could be actually AstroTurf type shoes, which you're talking more similar to like a runner type shoe, but they'll have some level of traction. But you're right, did purposely for the Combine, did any player change anything up knowing the type of surface that they were going to be performing on?
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of the athletes have been to this facility, so there's probably some sort of level of knowledge as to how the turf is, how it feels, and everything like that. Obviously, the GFL is very much about taking the local community and benefiting it, whether it comes to southeastern Wisconsin or northern Illinois. So, take some of these local athletes, especially the juniors and seniors in high school. I'm sure a lot of them have done work in this building. So I'm sure that familiarity can be big when it comes to how the turf feels and how you're going to run on it. We're taking some.
So we're going to have an opportunity to look at the bench press here soon, and then we're also going to have an interview with a contestant who had one of the larger jumps with the broad jump. I think it was 10 feet 6 inches. So we have a couple of cutaways here to do for the bench press, and then we'll have an interview with one of our broad jump participants.
That'll be good. I mean, we were pretty impressed with 9 feet 8 inches.
Right.
That other person had an extra almost 1.5 feet on them.
And from the progress of the Combine itself, at least it looks like the 40-yard dash portion seems to be complete. We don't see any participants lined up at this point. So that portion of the combine may be over, and you're going to start to see some of the people transition into some of the individual drills once they get through the full circuit.
Yeah, and obviously we're getting a little bit more look here at the broad jump. Not much of a reaction there to see how he felt about it. I wonder if that blue tape is the current record right now that they should be striving for.
Yeah, that's always a good motivational technique. So you know who the leader is, and you're trying to strive for that as best as you can.
And you know what? To be honest, it's just a good measurement stick to have, because you have to imagine most of these athletes right now, they may know what that distance is. You can self-measure yourself when you actually do your jump, and you can know whether to be a little bit more excited or not about it.
Yeah, he didn't look happy with that one. He kind of did a slam of his fist in his hand after that one, thinking he can do better than that.
But again, that's the advantage of having this here. He may get another opportunity to do this broad jump. At the actual NFL Combine, a lot of the stuff, you do one, and that's what you get, because they want to see really what you can do under that pressure. Whereas here, you want to have these athletes have the opportunity to really showcase their skills and put their best foot forward. And having multiple opportunities, if people make mistakes, especially amateur athletes. So if you can let these amateur athletes, give them another opportunity, and they may be able to impress you.
So more broad jump activity going on.
And you get a little bit wider look of it and a different angle from the broad jump to see really just how far these people are going.
And to your
Rob Griffin from the Max Center, Iron Football League, the Combine, and I have his name again?
Calvin Phillips.
Calvin Phillips, and he's going to talk about the drill so far.
Well, I'm actually trying out for the Ileana Eagles. It's an arena league. It's the AFL. And the drills out here, I think I did pretty good. My 40, I had a 4.46. My bench, 225, I repped out 24 times. My vertical was a 38, and my shuttle was a 4.5. So I think I did pretty good up overall. So it's looking good for me.
Yeah, we were just talking about over there that you jumped 10.6 on the jump, and that was pretty good. What team you play for the GFC?
Well, yes, I played for the Express team, and now actually this season I'm going out for the Ileana Eagles. It's the indoor arena league team, and the GFL team I played for was the North Shore Express.
Well, good luck on your tryouts for the team, and that was an impressive drills, and good luck.
I appreciate it.
All right, back to you, Chris and Brett.
Alrighty, thank you, Rob. That was obviously some very, very impressive numbers there. On top of, you heard the base jump of 10.6, which is almost a foot and a half longer than the previous high that we'd heard before. But I think what was probably most impressive was his 40 time.
I think, was it 4.36?
4.36 was his 40 time.
So 4.36, 24 reps of benching the 225 pounds, 10 foot 6 inch on the broad jump. He mentioned his shuttle time, I think, was like 4.6, something like that. So obviously, and so he is getting an opportunity to try out for the Arena Football League. So we talked about, hey, what are those next level opportunities that some of these players can take advantage of? Well, that's an example of a player, obviously, who has a lot of skill in a lot of different areas, being able to get a tryout for an Arena League team. And that's all he's looking for, is the opportunity to do that. So he played with the Northside Express last year, and he's looking for an opportunity to go into the Arena League this year. So that's the whole purpose of the Combine, is to give the Gridiron Football League players that opportunity to try and get to that next level. And as you can see, he's done so well in a lot of those drills.
Yes, if I were the Eagles, I would probably sign him right
Right.
away.
Well,
but you know what? This is probably exactly. It's maybe a little bit bittersweet for the GFL because you'd be losing a player, but you're getting what you would hope for as an organization. You're allowing your players to grow and to have better opportunities. For him to be able to have the opportunity to go and play in the Arena Football League, I'm sure the GFL is ecstatic about it, even if they might be losing a player.
Well, if you think about it, what is going to keep players to continue to come to this league? And if it's those players who want an opportunity eventually to go to the next level, whether that's college or a level of pro ball, if you're finding out that, hey, remember so-and-so who played in the league and he was able to move on and go to the Arena League, or he was able to go on to college, that's what you're looking for. So maybe you don't get that opportunity right out of high school. Here's a chance for you to sort of hone your skills, still play the sport, and then get in front of the scouting and player evaluation personnel to maybe get you that opportunity again. So that's all you're going to ask for. And success stories like those, I think, are going to continue to help this league grow and develop.
Yeah, and really, you've seen it. As we've said, they're adding 6 new teams this year.
Right.
So the interest is obviously there. The league is growing. When you have success stories like that, where you're able to say, "Hey, we've got people who are in the Arena Football League," or if he's able to move on past the Arena Football League, we didn't quite get his age, but if he's a young guy, it might not be the end of the road for him.
No, not at all.
He could be somebody who you see in the future, and you say, "Hey, he was part of the GFL. I want to play for the GFL." So I think the fact that we've seen this influx of players and this influx of talent coming into the league speaks volume as to just how dedicated the coaching staff and everybody is to making the players the best they can be.
And don't think that gets lost on the league personnel as well, the league administration. Those are some of the things that they want to tout. So when they know certain players have been able to move on to the next level, they keep records of that, and they want to publicize that. So that's part of the marketing effort that they would be looking to do as this league, to say, look, we have players who do progress and they go on to the next level of football. So you're talking about that. That's saying that there's a level of talent here that may either be untapped, or they may be just in a different circumstance in which now they're finally getting a time to really develop, or maybe they're late bloomers. There's so many different tracks that an athlete can be on, and this is just another opportunity for them to showcase their wares.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that it's just as important in terms of colleges. You think that's exactly what colleges do. If you're being recruited for football by a college, they'll say, "Hey, look at all these players that we've had advance on up to the NFL." Whereas if the GFL is able to take that mentality and say, even for juniors and seniors in high school, say, "Hey, these people, they came and they played for us," or even just the Combine event itself. They came to our Combine, and this person got a scholarship offer from Madison, Wisconsin. Say they had a scout, or anything really, and you will be able to tout that, and hopefully this event itself will be able to continue to grow throughout the years and allow those opportunities for all the players.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the things we'd like to get before our broadcast is over is get a handle on how many people participated today. Again, I think when we were talking with some of the personnel earlier, we talked about maybe about 70 participants last year for the first Combine. This year, the expectations may be upwards around 175, 200, maybe even higher than that. It's hard for us to judge because they've been shuttling them into different groups, but we know it's been more than 70. I think it's fair to say that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were expecting anywhere between 40 to 60 high school juniors and seniors. And this wasn't open to them last year.
Nope.
And like we said earlier, this is something that doesn't really get offered anywhere else. There's not a lot of places that have a Combine, or even you think high schools, they don't have necessarily pro days that a college scout would go to and be able to see multiple talents. Whereas here you have one centralized location where a college scout can see 40 to 50 different players from different schools. And people who are in the amateur league right now who are still looking to go to college, and be able to see that talent, meet with them, and get to know them on a more personal level, and see where things go in terms of scholarships or anything like that.
And part of that is the league understanding their role and purpose. So it's an amateur league, the Gridiron Football League. from that standpoint, there's still going to be a level of development. You have players who played the sport before. They're not getting paid to play it while they're in this league, but they are looking for an opportunity to progress. And so this is a showcase event that would help them with your attempts to move on to the next level. So if you're a league and you're going to look to coordinate events like these to promote your league and to promote your players. And again, that goes back to making your league successful by doing what you can to better for the betterment of your players. And if these players move on to the next level, that's a win for them.
Yeah, and kudos to the GFL really for setting this all up and having this idea. For them to be this ahead of the ball, I'm sure this type of event is something I'm sure we'll see popping up more and more, not only throughout the state but through the rest of the country. Is these type of combines held by amateur leagues or semi-professional leagues that allow their players to showcase their talents. And you know what, you say they're unsalaried, which is accurate, but it gives them the opportunity to have salary. If the one player gets that spot on the Eagles, that's a salaried position when you play in the Arena Football League, and he's going to be able to make a career out of it.
Right. So it looks like, Brett, we're getting a look into some of the individual drills now. So some of the portions of the Combine event have completed. We talked about the 40-yard dash completed. I still see some people doing the L drill. The 3-cone, I believe, might have been wrapped up. So, or the 5x10x5, I should say. So now we're getting a look at some of the individual drills. Looks like we're going to get some passing drills underway here. So now we're breaking out from the scheduled events for the Combine now into the individual drills.
Right, so you'll see a little bit more free range going on throughout the field house. Obviously, they do have to be a little bit more careful. There are still drills closing up, as you said. I believe they're on their last portion for the 5-10-5 or for other ones. So I think individual drills is where you're going to really see some people shine, because it's their specialty. It's what they're good at. So you're going to see, a quarterback may not be very fast and he may not be the strongest, so he might not shine during the 40 or during the bench press. But you get him in the passing drills, and he's able to zip passes down the field and accurately, and he's going to be able to shine in an area where he might not have been impressive for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, it's one of those things with quarterback positions. It's that intangible effect, though. So you may not grade out well with all of the individual Combine events itself, but when it comes to actually throwing the ball, how much you're putting on the ball, where are you putting the ball, what's your accuracy, what's your arm strength, getting a look at that. So those are some of the things that talent evaluators would look for from the individual drills. Even though you may not necessarily get a measure on it, you have a measurement in their mind of what a good quarterback looks like versus someone who may not be as high on their eyes as they'd like to be.
Absolutely. And, you think of some collegiate pro days that quarterbacks will have. They might not even bother running the 40 or doing the bench press, because really what the coaches are looking for is these individual passing drills to see what their field vision looks like, to see if they're able to go through their route progressions correctly. So I think it's really important for them to nail the individual drills, because that is so position specific. Obviously, you're getting another look here at the vertical jump. As there's been the theme a little bit throughout the day, we had somebody just miss the pad. And I believe what they're telling him now is he's not allowed to kick his knees up, because what that does when you're adding that extra pressure, if he kicks his legs down onto that pad, it's going to create the illusion that his jump was better than it was.
Right, and there you see he was able to correct that.
And there you go. And, you could be just somebody, maybe there's not a lot of people left, it looks like, lined up for the vertical jumps. They just might be letting him do it until he's satisfied with himself.
Yeah, they got it recorded there.
And even then, he still doesn't look satisfied. He's shaking his head. But like we said, he's got to be able now to move on to the next event and shake that off and move on and be able to put that out of mind. You're not going to have a perfect day usually at a combine, so be impressive where you can.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. So for the players who participated in this combine, were they practicing these drills ahead of time? Were they able to measure some of these things going in to be able to know even just from a feel standpoint, was that better, the same, or worse than how I had been doing previously if I was practicing these drills?
Get another shot here at the broad jump. And you've seen a few different techniques here. That seems to be mostly the universal one, is you build up a little bit of momentum with your arms and use that to sling yourself forward. But that's the type of thing where you have to be careful, because you can throw yourself off balance when it comes to your landing if you've got your center of gravity a little too far forward with your upper body.
And you don't want to injure yourself either. So even just for the landing, for the sake of technique and getting a measurement, but also just for your balance and not doing any damage to your knees or ankles, you want to make sure you have a nice landing. It still amazes me, though, how far out that long tape is for the long jump.
Yeah, I know. Give me maybe 3 jumps, and I'll be able to get out to that distance. Looks like here we get another view of the L drill in progress. And it looks like we're actually cutting back.
I got some work in the weight room there, so. All right, we have the L drill. So they might be on the tail end of the L drill here. We're looking for, see if we have a participant now. All right, so still working on the broad jump there.
And it's nice to know that I'm sure they're giving the people ahead of time a general idea of what their broad jump numbers are. You saw the person there with the yardstick ready. Here we're going to cut back to the weight room. We have a live take on, my guess would be some sort of lineman preparing for his bench press.
Or a very large quarterback. Right.
He might put Ben Roethlisberger to shame.
Yeah, he's got a good pace going on there.
And so much of this bench press is mental, too, which you wouldn't really think of. But you have to be able to push yourself, really. He's got himself to that point where he's so mentally astute when it comes to the bench press. He was able to pump out that many reps in a row without stopping. And now he can take what energy he has left and be able to exert it very evenly, very precisely over the amount of reps that he probably believes that he can do. You're going to have a general idea as to how many reps you typically do on this bench press. And if he is able to know that amount, have a technique on how to reach it, then you're going to be better off. He seems pretty happy with it too.
Give us a thumbs up. He wound up doing 8 extra reps there after his first wave, so he was able to, like you said, fight through the mental part of it. So he was able to do the first stream of reps, and then he was able to pump out 8 more reps in different pace to complete his total rep count there. So I don't know where he finished. Probably was upwards around 20, I would think.
Yeah, he would have
22
reps, definitely the most we've seen so far today on our broadcast.
Right. We know someone had 24, and then our last participant there had 22.
We get another person who seems pretty happy with it. He's not he looks like he could be a skill positioner or a quarterback or linebacker, something like that. So a lot of this we say is it's position dependent. You're not going to expect your quarterback or even sometimes your linebacker to get upwards of 20 reps at this level. You think of people who are doing this at the Combine professionally, and they're physically more mature. For the most part, they're older, they're stronger. They've got professional coaches and professional medical staffs and nutritionist staffs that we just don't have on this level. So to be able to see a lot of these people go over 20 reps on an amateur level is impressive.
Yeah, one of the things you're looking at, so as he's lifting, he's arching his back there. So, again, he's trying to use different parts of his body to get that lift up. So that's,
you can even see it there. He's holding his back a little bit at the end.
Right. Technique. You talked about technique. Time and time again on this drill, it is about technique, and there is proper lifting techniques to do it right so you don't injure yourself, number one, but number two, to be able to demonstrate your strength.
6 reps there. He didn't seem too happy with himself. And we get another one here. He's off to a pretty good pace. His arms are a little bit low, which could be a preference of his, as he seems to be off to a pretty good start and a pretty good pace. he also arching his back, pushing up with his legs, trying to get his core
Right.
more involved in the lifting.
Very strong upper body shape, though. I mean,
And everyone's got their own little quirks. You can see his legs are shaking as he's doing
Right.
these, and other people's whose arms are shaking.
Yep, he's getting encouraged there, or berated, one of the two. Probably encouraged.
I'm sure encouragement by beratement is
Right,
probably
yeah.
what's going on there.
It's football.
Seems to be fairly satisfied with it. Maybe it was the beratement. Oh, there we go. Now he's high-fiving the guy who was yelling at him before. And, sometimes that's all it can take. An impressive 16 reps there.
Right.
As we saw, for a different type of technique in terms of bench press. We'll see if he gets back into this guy's face as he's trying to bench press. But motivation can be such a huge factor in things like that. That's why coaching is so important. If you're able to know how somebody is motivated, and if he got an extra rep or two just by being yelled at by one of his peers, that can be huge. It shows that he's got that extra 110% that he can give.
And so far, he's keeping his legs on the ground. Back doesn't seem to be arching as much. Now he's starting to get a little more into it there. So when you start to see other parts of the body start moving while he's lifting, then he's trying to compensate. So we'll see how much he's able to get through here as clean as he can. Still not bad. You just don't know how much is being helped out through there. So we'll see how many reps that was.
A lot of that, too, can be mental in terms of when you have somebody spotting you and you see their hands on the bar, even if they're not helping you, it can give the illusion that they are, and the bar will feel lighter.
Mm-hmm. So 14 reps on that last one.
A great job by our camera crew in there, able to get back and forth to keep us as updated as possible in terms of the reps that they're taking in the weight room.
So, Brett, one of the things I want to talk about here, we talked about the Gridiron Football League expanding to 14 teams going into the 2016 season. So all of the teams are participating and helping out with the Combine today. So just want to go through the teams that will be in the league heading into 2016. So for the 2016 Gridiron Football League, we're talking about Chicago Chaos, the defending champs, 4-time champions, the Tri-City Ducks, the Madison Wolves, North Shore Express, Rock County Rage, the Warren Township Wolves, the Wilmot Phoenix, you have the Chicago Reapers, Illinois Sabres, the Midway Marauders, Oak Park Sharks, Rock River Raptors, the Waukesha Raiders, and the Zion Atomic Swarm. So those are your 14 teams that will make up the Gridiron Football League heading into the 2016 season.
And we'd like to take this time to recognize our sponsor for this event, which would be Prodrate. Prodrate is a premium coconut water sports drink that contains 5 different kinds of electrolytes: sodium, magnesium, calcium, chloride, and potassium. These electrolytes all work together to support the human body, providing the athlete with what he needs to recover after a vigorous workout. Perform at your best and then recover with Prodrate. Obviously, this event wouldn't be quite the same without Prodrate. We're able to get out the entire field house. They've got a table out on the side where they are handing out drinks for the athletes to help them recover, which is going to be a big part of keeping up their endurance throughout the day. You would want to see an athlete keep themselves hydrated, keep their electrolytes up, which is going to help them maintain their effort throughout the entire day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about strength and agility training. It's also about what you do. How do you condition your body? What is your nutrition like? What are the things you're doing to recover? What are the things you're doing to help prepare? So a lot of that goes into optimizing your performance as an athlete. So drinks like Prodrate help towards that regard.
Absolutely. You know what? A lot of it is can be out of players' hands. A lot of a person's athletic ability can be genetic. That's why you see family lines and family trees that extend into certain sports. You see fathers and sons and brothers. I think of Kyle Fuller, the Bears cornerback. He's got another brother who's a cornerback at Virginia Tech right now, who will be coming out in the draft this year. And their other brother, Corey Fuller, is a player for the Detroit Lions. And you see family lines like that genetically that clearly are beneficial for the player, as it helps them genetically just a better athlete.
It does. I mean, it definitely is the starting point. Obviously, if you say one thing, if give me the physical skills and abilities to do this, that would be great. That would be your starting point to be able to start off as an athlete. But then how do you prepare? How do you train? How are you coached? What are the intangibles you can do? There's so much that goes on in athletic performance. So just having the genes is one thing, but you got to be able to put it together. There's been a lot of great athletes who come from a lot of great bloodlines, but maybe they haven't necessarily panned out because they don't put the effort into it that you need to be a complete athlete.
Yeah, and that's obviously what it all comes down to in the end is your effort. You're only going to be as good as you want to be, as you let yourself be. So you're going to get out of your work and your effort what you put into it. So you can have all the natural athletic ability in the world, but if you don't apply yourself, you're not going to go anywhere with it. Or you might be a high school athlete star, but if you're not applying yourself, you're never going to reach that next level. Here it looks like we're seeing some individual drills, wide receiver on cornerback. Just missed out there. You're also going to obviously you're seeing what are going to be the quarterbacks throwing these passes. So this is a little bit multifaceted. You can see three different position groups.
Right. Yes. You're right. You're seeing the wide receiver, the cornerback. You're taking a look at the coverage skills. You're looking at the receiver's ability to break free, and then obviously the quarterback. They're going to be able to throw the ball and see if they're able to get it into their wide receiver, or is the cornerback going to knock it down? And they're going to mix it up, too. They're going to have it on different sides of the field, too, because you're not always going to be throwing to your right.
Right, and you're going to see different routes in terms of, so obviously the quarterback and the wide receiver will be on the same page as to what the route will be, and it will be up to the cornerback to make that adjustment live. So this is a great part of the combine because this is one of the few times you see direct competition. So you're seeing one position group battle another position group, and this is where your competitive side can come out. As you saw, great separation there by the wide receiver. Unfortunately, the cornerback lost him a little bit as he put a double move on him.
And that's something they'll pay attention to as well.
Yeah, and you know what? That's part of where you can see other drills coming into play. So he had that agility to make that one sidestep move and have the burst to continue going straight forward and beat the cornerback.
So look at how close on the corner is with the receiver for the drill. So he's right there. Now, there's not going to be any contact, I don't think. Yeah, there is, all right, just a little push on the line, but the ability to stay with him.
It's a great play by the cornerback there.
Right.
Hit him off the line. We got one player calling for a flag at the combine. But like we said, this is where the competitive side can come out. I'm sure the player in the lime green wasn't very happy, but that he didn't make that catch.
Right. He felt he was able to break away enough from the corner, but the corner was right there with him.
Another good play, coverage by the corner. Hit right off the receiver's hands, though. And you know what? You're seeing, we haven't seen too many. We've seen some pretty good throws from the quarterbacks, too, so far as well. So you got a wide view of the field house there. We'll see another one-on-one here. Broke wide open, but ooh. Pass looked to be just a little bit behind him, off his hands.
Right into the cornerback's hands.
I'm sure the cornerback will take that after being beaten off the slant.
That was a nice move, and he was able to get great degree of separation.
Yeah,
there.
I think it was the little head fake that he gave the cornerback that made him bite, and the cornerback bit to his right side, and the wide receiver was just able to jump to the middle uncontested. But, in reality, so he made that great move, but even if the throw was a little bit behind him, that's the kind of catch you want to see him still be able to make, because not every throw is going to be right in your breadbasket.
Well, to be fair, though, from the angle we have from the camera shot, we only have so many cameras here, so it's hard to say, was that enough within his reach that he could even do something with? Coaches will say, well, if you could get a finger on it, you should have had it or at least knocked it down.
Well, it looks like they're going through some sort of meeting in the middle of the field house right now. We've still got some other players finishing up on the other events. I see some people still doing the vertical. We've still got some other ones. They've pretty much finished up the 40-yard dash. It looks like some other events are mostly done. I don't see anybody still doing the broad jump at this point either.
Yeah, actually, there's. I think there might be some late participants coming. So I see someone doing a 40 right now.
I mean, better late than never.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they're not going to turn somebody down. You never know.
Oh, no.
Some of these people probably have prior commitments.
Right.
That they may not have been able to make it right away. So more power to the GFL staff to work with those people to get them in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the range that was open for the combine was 12 to 5. So obviously, it'd be ideal if they were able to get up here at that time and early and participate. But like you said, a lot of these are amateurs. They have other jobs, things like that. If they're able to come to the portion of the combine later on and still get to be able to run events like we just witnessed there, that's a great thing.
Yeah, and it's the holiday season as well, so people could still be seeing time with their family over the holiday weekend. So if some people bring
you guys up, I'm going to send you guys, and then the coaches will come. Right down here, we got O-line, D-line down by the doors, and that end zone over there. DBs are going to be over here. You guys take off. Running back is going to be up here. Wide receivers will be over there in that corner. Linebackers will be over there. Quarterback will be in the middle. Going from that guy to that way to that game. Go to your position-specific drill. So, Coach Rodriguez is the guy, D-line. Coach Rodriguez is the linebacker.
I'm sorry. He walked away, so I moved.
Okay, just one second.
I'm on it. I'm fixing it right now. Can't go any faster. Gotcha.
Now.
All right. So while we're looking at some of the events here, I want to go over some of the measurements that we have, at least for performance, from some of the events that have taken place today. So our best 40 time is a 4.4. That was by Andre Locke. Our best vertical jump was 38 inches, Calvin Phillips. Best broad jump, 10 feet 6 inches, Calvin Phillips. Again, we had Calvin on.
Yep.
He was being interviewed by Rob earlier. Most reps on the bench press at 225 pounds, 38. So 38, that was by Thomas Loving.
That is impressive. That is NFL level reps.
And then the second level was 23. So I don't know if Thomas did 2 reps, and he did 38 and then 23, but that's the 2 highest levels. As far as the shuttle times, best 5-on-5 shuttle times, we have Arthas Nixon, who had a 6.55 in the drill there. So that's the 5x10x5 shuttle there. So those are some of your stats that we have so far from the Combine event. So some pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah, and no surprise to see Calvin Phillips leading a couple of those after the interview we had earlier with him. As we've said, hopefully he's impressing the Arena League Eagles. I'm pretty sure leading with 2 out of the 6 events is not hurting his chances.
Yeah, the Ileana Eagles will probably be pretty impressed with some of the numbers that he's put up in the Combine event. So that's a good thing for him. Still got to try out, still has to make the team. But the numbers are definitely a thing that really capture the coach's attention there. So that's a good thing for him.
Absolutely. And what I think is really impressive, we're at an amateur level combine, and we've seen some numbers that are NFL caliber. With 38 reps on the bench press is absurd.
Right.
I mean, you see offensive linemen in the NFL that can't get up to 30. So, and you see a 4.4 on the 40.
A 4.40, right.
Which is just as impressive. That is better than the league average for wide receivers and cornerbacks heading into the NFL from college. So, I think it really kind of showcases the variety of talent that we have here at this combine, in that we have different event leaders that are just as good at times and reps as the NFL.
Yeah, and so you're going to get that. Hopefully you have those outlier players that stand out in terms of their performance in the combine drills, and then when it comes to the individual drills.
You've seen a drill here, the mini hurdles drill, typically for some of your skill players where they have to hurdle over the little pads there while catching a football. You see he stumbled a little bit as he's going in between the pads. I'm sure he's not all too happy with himself there, but he might get another go of it. And what this allows a coach to see is the player's general awareness of his body and his positioning. Because if you're trying to catch a football, unless you're using your peripheral vision, you don't have the opportunity to look down at your feet and see if you're going to be able to go in between those. That's why you saw that second person in this drill trip a little bit because he hit one of those pads. So you had to have the body awareness to know where your feet are, as well as to be able to watch the pass and make sure you catch it.
Right, so as our viewers are looking at this drill, take a look at the players' heads, the players' eyes, and where are they when they're going through the hurdles. So as you said, are they looking straight ahead? Are they looking at the quarterback or the person throwing the ball? Or are they looking down and looking at where the hurdles are in itself? Because, you're going to have so many things flying at you as a player. Your focus as a player is always on where's the ball.
Yeah, so
where's the ball?
After this, we'll take you to the cutback cone drill in a little bit as we continue watching this. You're going to see they're going to go from the other direction now, make sure they can go. Here's your cutback cone drill, another one that will really test typically the skill positions and their ability. So you think of a wide receiver or specifically a running back trying to make a cutback against the grain and go the other way in the field. This is the exact drill that's going to test that. And this is actually really interesting because you're seeing 3 people go all at the exact same time.
Right. So it's one of the things I think with the individual drills, they're able to, in some of the events, they're able to double up a little bit more or even triple up to get as many participants through as possible.
Go back to the mini hurdles, and you see they're moving out to the outside, and they're doing a little bit different of a throw here as they have to catch the ball as they're still shuffling to their right. Here you see one-on-one pass blocking drills. A nice little swim move there by the D lineman. Just went right underneath the arm of the offensive lineman.
Now here you're probably going to see a lot of emotion out of the lineman players here, especially if you're able to get off a block nicely, or if you're able to block nicely too. You might see some emotion from some of the participants here.
Yeah, you know what? This is where you see people get a little bit chippy because this is directly one-on-one. There's other things where you're timed against somebody else, or you can, you're running the same time as somebody else. But this is 2 people being physical with each other, and a good block right there. That's the first time we've seen the offensive lineman win by pushing the rusher out to the outside.
Keep him off the edge. Keep him out to your outside there.
Another good block right there. Was able to hold off the push-off and get his body back into position. Obviously, this doesn't quite get it to the full level because you don't see anybody in pads. You don't want to see people get hurt.
Right.
But this is a very good gauge in terms of technique. So for the offensive linemen, you want to watch their hand techniques. Are they getting them inside the numbers? Are they able to keep them on the inside without holding? For the defensive linemen, what do their moves look like? Do they have a swim move? Are they just going to go for a straight bull rush? So it really gives the opportunity for each side to showcase their talents.
Right. That was a nice move there.
And, we've seen so far pretty good camaraderie in that drill. This is the quarterbacks working on their footwork, specifically in the pocket you're going to see. So one of the main things you see in the NFL criticized nowadays is your footwork, throwing off your back foot and things like that. So this is probably just as much good practice for a quarterback as it is you'll be able to see for a scout.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are only a handful of quarterbacks who can really get away with throwing off your back foot. I mean, you hear that as a common criticism of quarterbacks all the time. Hey, you're throwing off your back foot, that leads to bad mechanics, or that is bad mechanics that's going to lead to a bad result. But then you see some players who are able to do it and put the ball where they wanted to. But usually that's in the case where the quarterback's under some type of duress. Otherwise, fundamentally, right, you want to be positionally sound, mechanically sound with your footwork.
And you want to have quick feet if you can too.
Right.
That allows you to move around in the pocket easier, and if you really do need to break out of the pocket, you have that opportunity if you're much faster in planting your foot and being able to drive yourself forward or move yourself out of the pocket. As we look on, we've got other types of drills going on. These look like receiver, almost fade routes. Looks like we might be testing.
I think this
these
might be
cornerbacks. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is testing a cornerback's ability to get themselves back, and it looks like make a cut to one direction.
Now, I don't see the peanut punch drill being executed here at the Combine, so apparently Peanut Tillman's famed punch the ball out of the receiver's hand drill isn't part of today's Combine.
You know, I don't think that can be taught. I think that's just I think that's peanuts and peanuts alone.
Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Cornerback drills, you're seeing them. You're probably checking their footwork there to make sure they're going back correctly.
Here we get a look at some receivers, maybe running backs.
Yeah, look at their route running, see if they're clean out of their breaks and everything like that, and just having a simple throw at the end of it. So you can see a couple of the different ones we have going right now. Like we said, they're all over the field house. So you've got, you've still got our lineman drills, our one-on-one drills. You've got the cornerback drills.
Yeah, the back pedal for that cornerback is so key. You know, being able to stay square with your receiver. Obviously, you're not seeing the receiver in the drill, but you know that's part of the fundamentals, the technique that the cornerback has to have is their back pedal.
And it's really it makes it a lot easier to make your reads if you're able to do your back pedal correctly. Otherwise, if you have to go through your progressions and you do your back pedal incorrectly, you might be facing one side of the field or the other, and it's going to be harder for you to adjust and correct your footwork in order to make the next throw.
Right.
So as we see some more, one of my favorites is definitely the lineman drills up top. As you see them going head to head, it looks like everyone's still having a pretty good time. I think they understand what we got going on here. It's serious, but it's fun. I don't think any of these guys so far have gotten too angry at themselves.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely, you're not seeing sort of that full-out burst and push that you normally would if this was a training camp scenario.
Right, you see they're starting a little bit differently. They're not starting right off the snap. Here they want to see if the offensive lineman, he's already got his hands inside the numbers. Can he keep it there? And if you're the defensive lineman, can you break free of that?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like up top we've got a different drill, blocking drill in terms of running backs, I'd assume. Being able to go off the snap and pick up a rusher.
Oh, they actually have the ball in their hand.
Oh, they do.
So
maybe it's trying to find the lane in between the two defenders. So I'd imagine that the two mats there are where you are as your offensive lineman, and you need to be able to make a cut to get past the two D linemen.
Right, find the hole.
A very nice,
wow.
Very nice move over there. Spun right around.
That was a great shot.
And that's why that burst is so important. You saw him right off the snap be able to get his arm over the outside shoulder of the offensive lineman and move right past him. And the offensive lineman, if he needs to recover, needs to have the speed and the footwork. Just another nice little swim move right there. Went over the defender's shoulder, pushed him back behind him, and was able to just run right through him. And you know, it can be great teaching exercises. If you're that offensive lineman and that happens to you, you now know that that's something you may need to work on.
Exactly.
And they tried to do the exact same thing right there, and he blocked it perfectly. They tried to run the same move on him, and that time he was ready for it.
And as you're waiting for your turn in line, you're seeing all these things take place. You're seeing what some of the other defensive linemen are doing. So whether or not you face the same guy in your rotation or a different one, you're going to have to go to school as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is very important with being able to see if you can break free. That was just a nice little push move by the defensive lineman there. The offensive lineman didn't quite have the foot speed to recover back to his left. Here you're seeing the tip drill. You'll see oftentimes this is done at the pro level all the time. Balls up in the air, you are taught to, if you're on the defensive side of the ball, just tip the ball in the air. You have a much higher chance of an interception if you just tip the ball instead of trying to bat it down. So you see two people going in a line. You see the first person, he'll jump up on the jump ball and tip it, whereas it's the person's job behind him to receive it. If you typically think of the way you are on defense, especially if that's a cornerback, you typically are going to have some sort of safety behind you, or a different cornerback, your slot cornerback or something like that. So if you want to be able to tip it backwards, because there's usually not going to be a wide receiver behind you, but your own teammates are going to be.
It's almost like a volleyball skill where you're trying to set it. You're a setter and trying to set it up for the player behind you.
Absolutely. This looks like they're going to switch sides here.
Right. So you're getting a good view of the different type of individual drills that take place in a combine event. So, again, beyond the 6 staple events that you are able to get some athletic measurement, some performance measurement, now you're actually looking at football-related skills or drills that are relative to the game, and you're getting a chance to see the different type of drills that are involved that talent evaluators look at.
Right, you're looking at those specific skills, so you're going to be able to see who's got great hands. That's something you can't really test when you're doing a 40 or if you're doing a bench press. But if you can snag a ball like it was just done there in the corner of the end zone, that's going to show up. So when you have those almost intangible skills that aren't measured just by your pure athleticism, and these are the events where you can showcase them. Looks like we've got another cone drill here for wide receivers. Breaking out of the route. Hopefully he's all right.
That was almost a nice grab there, but yeah, he ran out of real estate at the end there.
So what you were seeing there is wide receivers being able to practice their ability to change direction and their route running. They need to weave in between the cones and then break out to the outside. So it's testing how quickly they can move their feet, and when they make that cut, do they have the agility to get to where the ball is. You can see we have our split screen here. We'll give you a few different views of some other drills again. You see the wide receivers going, or the cornerbacks in the bottom right again, going for catches back in the end zone, being able to backtrack, use correct feet, and turn to the ball. Up top on the right, you still got your offensive and defensive lineman drills. They may be going at those for a while just because there are so many different kinds of defensive moves. You don't know whether they're told as to what move they should be trying, but it is a really good test for the offensive lineman to be able to figure it out as soon as possible and make the right adjustment.
And are they getting paired up with the same person for each drill, or do they mix that up? That obviously you're facing a different offensive or defensive lineman. You're at a disadvantage. Well, you're both on equal terms, I guess, from that standpoint. You haven't learned anything from that person other than if you observed them before.
Right, but you got to think, if you are there and you see other people doing it, it's really testing your football acumen. Are you watching the other players that are going in the drill? Do you see, there's one player that you might be coming up against who seems to have a move that he likes, or something that he hasn't tried, something that hasn't worked that might be frustrating him, so he's going to try something different. I feel like you think most defensive linemen, they probably have a favorite move, whether it's the punch, whether it's the swim move, whether it's a bull rush, and those are the kind of things you got to prepare for. And even at a combine like this, if you are able to have the state of mind that, hey, I need to be watching this, I need to be studying these other people, that's going to stand out when you're up and you're able to accurately predict and stop the bull rush or any other rush move that's used on you.
Well, and that's where advanced scouting comes into play. So when you're talking about game scouting, obviously if you know who your opponent's going to be when you're playing against them, you're going to learn those things. You're going to learn that defensive lineman does tend to use the swivel move most often than not. So you're going to be more prepared to see that. But like you said, you have to be ready for anything. You just can't say, I'm going to see this a bulk of the time and that's what I'm going to train for, because next thing you know, you could be bull rushed and on the ground.
Yeah, so lots to keep an eye on here. You still got your bottom left where you've got your wide receivers breaking in and out of cones, testing their agility. You've got the cornerback drills in the bottom right corner where they're backtracking and then being told the direction to turn to track the football. Your offensive and defensive lineman drills, and it looks like they might be setting up a new one up on the top left now that they finished their mini hurdles. So really, you're getting a nice balance of everything here. You're able to see each position group, what they're doing. You see up top on the defensive line drills, they've moved to 2-on-2 now. So you have to be more spaciously aware of what your partner's doing. If both of the defensive linemen try to make a move to the inside, they're going to get stuffed. Same with your offensive linemen. If they're not on the same page, one of them is going to go right up the middle while the other one goes on while both players are blocking one player.
Definitely up at the ante here.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Looks like we were going to some quarterback drills there. As you've seen a little bit of a more view of the field house itself. Pretty much working in all four corners of the field house at this point. Just all the different position groups and the space that they need to perform their drills. There you can see a different view of the offensive and defensive line.
And for our viewers, just want to welcome you if you've just joined us. This is the 2015 Gridiron Football League Combine here on SportstownChicago.com. We've been at it here, well, we've been at it for a while. How long it's been?
Nearing up on about 2 hours now throughout the Combine. They're supposed to go to about 5 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. Like you said, you are listening on Sportstown Chicago. Like you said, if you are joining us, this is a Combine for the Amateur Gridiron Football League, as well as some local juniors and seniors in high school to showcase their skills for different amateur scouts, some professional scouts, and even some collegiate ones. We're here at the Max Athletic Center here in McCook, Illinois. Very thankful and gracious for them for allowing us to have this event here. As we've said, it's a great facility, very large and spacious. And we could have asked for better conditions on the inside. Everything's well kept. The field looks great, and we're just glad to be here.
Yeah, it's the perfect venue to hold a combine when you talk about the amount of space we have here at the Max Center and all the different drills. We talked about the 6 drills that were done ahead of time, and then now we're on the individual player drills. So you need to have a field house that has a capacity to be able to pull this out, so not everyone's running into each other. And this is just a great facility for it.
And you know, it's really nice and centrally located in terms of the GFL. This is, they're housed in southeastern Wisconsin and northern Illinois, so this creates kind of a nice middle ground for them to meet at. And they really wanted to take the opportunity to give back to their community who support them so much. I know the GFL is very appreciative of all their fans and everyone who support them at games and everything. So, to be able to give back to juniors and seniors in high school as well as their own players is something I know that they really enjoy doing.
And we're going to look here at some of the quarterbacks we're playing. It's a quarterback for the Chicago Chaos.
And it looks like
I believe that is, if I'm not mistaken, that's Anthony Ionati, the quarterback for the Chaos.
Yep, you are correct. That is the quarterback for the 4-time defending champion Chicago Chaos.
Yeah, they have quite a juggernaut going on in the league right now.
You really think about it, it is very impressive. The league has only been in existence for 9 years now, and they've won the last 4 championships. So hopefully this event itself can allow, especially when it comes to the high school players, a little bit more parity to be driven in the league. You can see a lot of teams competing for the championship, but I'm sure the Cougars have no problem welcoming more competition. Looks like here you're seeing the wider or the cornerback's ability to move themselves in and then try and get back on a ball. We've seen this player in a couple cornerback drills. You're going to see,
or it might be a linebacker drill.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. The ability to looks like they might be faking a rush or going into rush,
right?
Noticing a pass and being able to make a break on the ball,
right? Yeah, key skill for a linebacker. You're going to have, are you rushing, are you blitzing, or are you staying back in coverage? Are you doing both? You have a role as a linebacker. You have a certain player or area that you're supposed to cover. So you have to have that awareness and be able to rush as well as drop back.
Yeah, and that's kind of the group we probably safely say, maybe other than safeties, we've talked the least about today. But really, I think it's because a lot of what a linebacker needs to do is harder to test here. A lot of it is your football intelligence as a linebacker, because typically your linebackers are the ones that are calling the plays, that are making the audibles or adjustments mid-game, because more often than not, they're the ones that have more flexibility in what they're doing, whether they're blitzing, whether they're in zone, whether they have to be in man coverage on a tight end. They are one of the position groups that really does it all most consistently. Every once in a while you'll get a safety who's blitzing or in man, but most of the time you're going to get a safety using zone coverage. So whereas the linebacker, they don't have that. So it's a little bit harder to test the linebackers' mental acuity when it comes to making adjustments and things like that here. So their ability to show off what they can do physically is very important here.
Yeah, being positionally aware, that's the label that's usually associated with a linebacker probably the most. And then, as you said, safeties as well. So, knowing where you are on the field, where you're supposed to be, where's the ball going, what's your role, those are things that a linebacker has to have. And again, a lot of these drills, you're not going to have a lot of things that are going to be able to speak to your ability to do that. So whatever drill you can showcase that ability, you'd like to shine in it.
Absolutely. So go back here. It looks like we're back onto the rush situations. Still on the 2-on-2. So like we said, this really gives a good opportunity to see how you work together. So you have to imagine there's a little bit of communication in terms of what the defensive linemen are going to do. One's going to go inside, one's going to go outside. Back to wide receiver drills here. It looks like being able to make an inside break off of the cornerback on what appears to be a slant route and be able to make that turn and go up the field.
And as soon as they do that, then we break out to another route.
It really is, though, because as a wide receiver and as a scout for a wide receiver, you want to make sure that they are able to run all the routes. Any wide receiver can run a go route or a fly route, but it's being able to run the curl, run the slant, and keep your route crisp and clean that coach and a scout is really going to be looking for.
Right.
You can be the fastest man in the world, but if you've got a fast cornerback who can cover you and do the same thing, and all you can do is run a go or a fly route, you're not going to be much of a threat.
Right. So part of that goes into timing plays. So is the quarterback just going to put the ball in a spot and you have to be there? Are you getting bumped off your route? Or are you not? If the plays get extended and you're a secondary or third option, then what's your ability to break away from the corner? So, then you have to break away from your route and then follow your quarterback.
Yeah, I think this is a good exercise for the coaches and scouts to be able to see, because typically you're going to tell them, okay, this is a 10-yard curl, when we won't necessarily have those yard markers here. So you want to be able to see, okay, does this wide receiver contextually know what 10 yards downfield is going to be? And same with the quarterback, where the quarterback has to have that timing with a wide receiver that he doesn't really know. So in order to do those routes, it has to be a clean route. If you're turning around too slow, or if you're making your cut too soon, then your timing is going to be off.
Right.
You saw there a little bit of a miscommunication between the offensive linemen, and what happened was they both split to the outside and left the middle wide open for one of the defensive linemen to split right through. So as we've said, we're just continuing our day here at the Gridiron Football League Combine here at the Max Center in McCook, Illinois. So far, so good. We have moved on past almost all of our segmented events. The 40, the 5x10 by 5, our bench press are all pretty much done for the most part. Basically, everyone has moved on to their individual drills. They've been split out. If they are just finishing up their other drills, they are being moved into their position groups right now. Basically, the entirety of the field house right now is being allocated out to individual drills.
I'm assuming that's probably we're done in the weight room as well, especially since the event was optional.
Yeah, you'd imagine there'd be less people doing that, and it is a pretty quick event, especially when they have the two benches going.
Right.
Looks like one of the main ones still going on is the offensive and defensive line rushing. Which, same thing, you've got the same number of people, but you really do want to test their endurance. You want to be able to see, hey, can they run this drill 10 times in 10 minutes if we want them to? It is not easy work to rush the passer or to block a pass rusher. So in order for them to be able to do it multiple times, people are probably, especially some of those people who might not have the physical endurance and wherewithal of some of the skill position players, your body's starting to wear down on you a little bit right now. So if I'm a scout, I want to see, hey, are these people still giving me 100%, even though they're a little bit later in the day? So these people have been going now for 2.5, almost 3 hours if they got here early and they were warming up. Are they tired? Are they still showing me that they're here to put forth their maximum effort, and are they still able to impress me this late in the day?
Yeah, and that's the thing is you're talking about drills. Think about what a football game is like, and if you don't even follow the ball, if you just followed one particular offensive lineman or defensive lineman or a cornerback or a wide receiver, they're not always involved in the play where the ball's going to be their way, but they're doing something. They're running a route, they're following a receiver, they're blocking a lineman, they may have a different lineman over them, they may be facing a different formation. So play after play after play, something's going on, whether the ball's going your way or not. So you have to execute something. And to your point, Brett, some of that durability and your ability to sustain as these drills go along, obviously the coaches and the scouts are going to be looking at those things to say, all right, what type of condition is this player in? Because a football game turns out always to be a game of attrition.
Yes, definitely. You'll see some teams eventually start to wear down at the end of the day. And especially, you look at these guys right here, maybe to their detriment, they might be a little bit harder, but they're not wearing pads. Mm-hmm. So when they're hitting up against each other, they're hitting each other's bodies. These guys might wake up and they're going to be sore the next day. You might not get that if you're in the wide receiver group.
Right. And, what have they been doing from a football standpoint condition since the season ended? The season ended in mid-August, so what have these players been doing since that time? I doubt this is the first time they've had any football activity in that whole time span, something that's taken place in between, but, how much activity have they had?
Right. Looks like we might get started on some passing drills here. We've got the quarterback and we've got our cornerback as well as a couple of safeties. So this will be interesting. It almost looks like two different sets going at the same time on different sides of the field.
Right.
Where the wide receiver's goal is to get open. It looks like each quarterback has two wide receivers, there's two cornerbacks, and a safety. So almost a 3-on-3 drill, if you will, if you exclude the quarterback.
So we're definitely using up a bulk of the field house here with this particular drill.
Yeah, this is pretty much taking up one half of the field house. On the other side, you've got your offensive and defensive lineman drill. So right now, this is the main attraction we have going.
So it looks like one quarterback at a time here, right? Yeah. Oh, no, okay, so the other quarterback is further back there. So he's recessed a little bit. On our near side, the quarterback is a little more out front.
Yeah, but it looks like they're just the first time they ran them at the same time, and I think the cornerbacks got a little confused because there's two different plays going on in the same area at the same time. So
they'll segment that out a little bit so they have better spacing.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got these seem to be 3-on-3 passing drills. You're getting two cornerbacks on each of the wide receivers along with a safety. And this also helps because you can see the quarterback there calling out plays to his wide receiver as to what route he wants them to run.
So a running back, two receivers.
As opposed to opposing two cornerbacks and a safety. So I'm sure some of these scouts don't want to see the quarterback take that outlet pass to the running back all the time. So he's going to need his wide receivers to start getting some more separation. It's a good test. This is one of the few real live events that we've seen in terms of offensive passing the football. You saw there great coverage by the cornerback on the far side of the field. The play died out there. The quarterback was trying to communicate with his wide receiver where he wanted him to go, but he didn't quite get it.
Well, and you're talking about players who haven't played with each other. So you have a combine where you have players from across the league. So you may be throwing to players who aren't necessarily on your team. You've never worked with this player before. So it's hard for quarterbacks and receivers to get on the same page that quick, when you're not used to each other.
It was a nice little misdirection by the wide receiver there. Got the cornerback to bite on the halfback coming out of the backfield, and left him wide out, open on the right sideline. You get a different view of it here on the field level before we take you back up to the top to show you another go of it.
And your cornerbacks are at different levels of depth. The one cornerback looks to be around 5 yards deep. Another defender's 10 yards deep, and then obviously your safety's a lot further in the back there.
Bit of a reaction to that tackle by the crowd down on the field. They didn't. I'm sure they were a little bit iffy on that. What appeared to be a slide tackle on the running back coming out of the backfield. So I think what they're really trying to get is a lot of the testing on the cornerbacks, just because they are kind of outmanned. So you want to see the cornerbacks follow the wide receiver, and then if it has to go to the running back, I think they want to see the cornerbacks close in on that running back as fast as possible.
I would have to say the interior defender is your linebacker, right?
It could be. You've constantly got one linebacker, a cornerback, and a safety.
And a safety. And then you have a running back, a receiver, and maybe a tight end. Or at least two receivers. So different variations there. But you can see the different levels that the defenders play at. Well, the linebacker is much further off the line, obviously, than the corner.
You saw one man kind of get stuck out there. One of the cornerback there kind of get stuck out in no man's land. Kind of lost his man. Thought he was going to cut back behind him, but he ended up cutting back to the outside.
And keep in mind while we're watching this passing drill, again, other drills continue to go on. The linemen are still going at it with various line drills and combinations. So, again, wearing each other down, linemen doing lineman things. The big men doing their things there, and then we have the skill position players at the center of the field house here.
Yeah, this is, I think, where you're going to start to see the skill position players start to get a little bit more fatigued. They're not getting a lot of rest in between these reps. They're pretty much going in every other play. So eventually, I mean, at that point, you're especially the ones that are going in more often, you might as well be in a hurry-up offense right now. Which I think is good. I think the coaches want to be able to. Coaches and scouts want to be able to see, okay, in this short amount of time, it's basically the quarterback calling out an audible or a hot route to one of the wide receivers, because they don't really have the time to set up and make a play. So it's the quarterback telling the wide receivers, "You do this route. Hey, you do this route," and then being able to execute. A little bit of a low throw by the quarterback, though, may have been on purpose as the coverage was tight, though.
Yeah, the coverage was tight for all three defenders there, so that was a nice job by the defenders on that route.
And really actually a pretty good job by the quarterback to recognize and just throw it away. There's no point in forcing passes that aren't going to look good when it comes to being watched on tape or if there's a scout in the crowd. He's going to want to be able to see that you're smart enough to throw that ball away and not waste the play and not put the ball in a more dangerous situation. Good shot right there on the bottom right, the ball being caught right in front of our camera down there. Taking down the field level so you can kind of see the activity that's going on, especially when it comes to we're getting a good view of the passing drills going on. There's your nice replay of it.
Shot. Yep, nice grab.
Good extension on him to be able to come out and get it. And good job by the cornerback to be right up on him as soon as he caught it.
Right.
Oh, there you saw a great throw just off the hands of the wide receiver, maybe a little bit high, but in situations like this, that's where you want to see them come down with it. You want to see them come down with those tough catches in a combine like this.
Yeah, again, the coach is saying, if it's on your hands, you should have caught it. And that's what they'll probably say there.
Yeah, another good replay of it showed just that it went right off of his hands for it. A good little crosser out there had him wide open. Looks like coverage was tight on the lower half of the screen there. Quarterback doesn't look too happy. Nice catch there. Way to hold on to the ball as he was heading towards the fence on the outside of the field house there.
Yeah. Yeah, even though it's a large facility, you still have tight quarters here with all the different events and drills that are taking place here. So you have to be aware when you're catching that ball of where you are.
Looks like they're starting to run a few play-action plays now, as you can see on the bottom of your screen there. Hopefully testing the defensive player's ability to read whether the ball is actually being carried or not by the running back. And really a test to the running backs, too, because you need to be able to be convincing that you do have that ball, and even on all levels to the quarterback to be able to have that ball in the running back's pocket just to the last second.
You have to sell it. You definitely have to sell it.
A pretty easy route and catch there. Seemed to be they gave him a little bit too much space when they were setting up their defense.
Yeah, it was very clean.
Haven't seen the quarterbacks make a lot of mistakes. I know it can be hard when there's only 3 defensemen, but you haven't seen a quarterback really make a bad mistake yet until almost right there, just out of the reach, out of the safety in the backfield. Threw it a little bit too far over that was a tight end and wide receiver.
Oh. Thought he came down with him, but unfortunately not.
It looked to be a tough throw he had to make. He had to put it low and away, only where the wide receiver could catch it. So even though it looked to be a pretty decent throw, that's a pretty tough catch to make. Looked like another drop right there on the far side of the field.
It is a catch, though, that a lot of wide receivers are being asked to make. I mean, quarterbacks are being stressed over and over not to put the ball in harm's way, so sometimes you do have to throw the ball in a spot that, hey, maybe it's not the greatest from a standpoint of a receiver standpoint, but it's not in the eyes of the defender. The only person who can catch it is the receiver.
You can see where there's another drop on the screen right there. Got good separation, got the cornerback to fall down, but just was not able to bring it in. But I know what you mean. Really, the expectation nowadays with wide receivers is basically to catch everything that is in your wingspan, really.
Right.
And part of that is just because of the technology. You look at what wide receiver gloves nowadays, and they're basically like glue on your hand. You think of Odell Beckham's famous catch from last year. A lot of that has to do, beyond his hands themselves, is the gloves that are now used in even amateur all the way through NFL levels. They're just the technology is so much more advanced than it used to be. So wide receivers really are expected to catch everything that comes their way.
They are. And then quarterbacks are expected to make every throw, too.
Exactly. I think this is nice, though, because we're seeing a good mix of routes run. You're able to see the quarterback there actually make a pretty nice play as the snap was botched. He was able to still go out of the pocket and make the play. Wasn't able to tell if that was the intention for it to be a botched snap out to the side, but
right.
Looks like they're just being hiked from a still position, so they might have been testing him. A great throw there on the far side of the field. Perfect spiral and a great route. And maybe now you're starting to see people get a little bit worn down. We still have the offensive and defensive lineman drills going on the other side of the field. Looks like there they do have what appears to be possibly a running back coming up and getting that second block. It looks like they may be starting to wrap up on that side of the field. The passing drill's obviously still going on in the middle of the field. Looked like another drop there. He wasn't too happy with himself.
So each quarterback, what they're expecting to do here is there's a certain route they want each quarterback to run on each drill. So positionally, you're going to see some of the same things out there.
Right. There's a lot to evaluate on this because you get to see, if the quarterback is the one calling the routes, is he calling smart routes that get paired well together? Is the wide receiver running a clean route? Are they good out of their breaks? Almost a bad mistake there by the quarterback as it appeared the safety cut underneath the route, cut in front of the wide receiver going across the middle of the field.
And each time you're seeing the running back go wide being as an outlet for a possible screen.
Right. Like I said, I think that might be the last resort that they want the quarterback to use.
Right.
You want to be able to see him, make a play if it's there. Don't force anything into a window that isn't there, but use your wide receivers because they should be getting separation.
All right, now there's your play action.
That one right into the fence. Which obviously they got to be a little bit careful here. We are in a field house, so it's not like they can just run willy-nilly up against out of bounds or anything like that.
The good thing, Brett, is you and I are safe because we're a floor above them, so it'd have to be a heck of a play for us to be in
Yep, and as you can all see, obviously there's a protective netting.
That's for Brett. Yeah.
You don't need to be hit in the back of the head by a stray pass. Almost a great pass on that last one.
Our living room, yeah.
almost hauled in by the wide receiver. I think he's saying he maybe should have had that one. Looks like you're going to get a good replay of it right here. Tries to go right across back the middle. Might have been just out of his reach.
Yeah, tough ball. He's going one way. The ball's going another direction, trying to stop. Good look at that.
Looks like it could have gotten a bit of our camera crew down there. Hopefully they're all right.
Yeah.
So we're going to get another good view of the field house. They've got pretty much one whole side dedicated to the passing drills going on. The other side, it looks like the offensive linemen and defensive linemen are getting coached up, letting them know how they did, what they can expect for the rest of the afternoon and everything like that. So right now the passing drills are basically one of the few things we have going on. Ooh. Not the best throw by the quarterback there. I think his timing with his wide receiver was just a little bit off. The wide receiver, it was a smart throw to go to the back shoulder, but he just wasn't quite out of his break yet. And that's where, like you said, Eric, the timing isn't quite there because these people haven't really played with each other.
No. I mean, maybe one of the receivers is someone from their own team, so they kind of know each other's tendencies. But when you're talking about spreading this over the entire league, odds are you're throwing to someone who wasn't on your team, and so you need to know that.
So an interception right there. Ball was thrown a little bit high, went right through the wide receivers, just barely slipped through his hands and right into the belly of the cornerback. That's what you like to see, though. You like to see them making the most out of that opportunity. If that is going to happen, the cornerback was in position as to where he needed to be. If that ball was caught, game situation, he would have been able to put a big hit on that wide receiver.
All right.
It looked like maybe another possible miscommunication on that throw. Thrown a little bit low and behind the wide receiver.
And as you can see, when we cut away, we have the individual shots, and then we have the multi-shots. So obviously we have a lot of camera operators here today, so we'd like to thank them for the visuals that they're bringing us today and all the production work that's taking place that's allowing Brett and I to talk you through this Combine event here for the GFL. So our thanks to all of our camera operators and our production crew for being able to bring this event to you and allowing us to narrate it for you.
And obviously we had Chris stop by a couple times with his tidbits in terms of how things were going, and we'll send it over to Chris right now.
Yeah, guys, things are starting to wind down here. All the drills on the left side that you were seeing before are pretty much over. It's now just going to be focusing on the passing and catching drills that we have going on here between the quarterbacks and receivers and the defensive backs that are playing against them. So that's where the focus is right now, as things are starting to really just wrap up here.
These are the sexier drills, really, when you're talking about the quarterbacks involved and the wide receivers.
Yeah, this is sort of like your 7-on-7, sort of the skilled positions, of course, is what they say. This is where the focus is now, and really where the eyes tend to go to more. And, of course, the lineman drills, when those are going on, guys will pay attention to that, too, with guys actually hitting each other.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, how they might be wearing down a little bit. And here on the screen, you can see some of our top scores and times throughout the day. You can still see Calvin Phillips' name on there a couple times with the vertical jump and the broad jump. Andre Locke with the 4.4 and the 40-yard dash. As we said, that is better than average for the college combine into the NFL. Most reps on the bench press still obviously ended up being Thomas Loving at 38 reps.
38.
And then he had that second time where you guys saw it live, and he did the 23.
So that was the second. That was
his second time. His second time, and he got 23.
And obviously not to leave Artavius Nixon out with the line drills. And it looks like we're getting a nice little visit from our sponsor, ProDrate, here. As again, we want to thank ProDrate for sponsoring this event. This is a coconut sports drink, coconut water sports drink, 5 different types of antioxidants and nutrients to help your body recover. So big thanks to them. They've been providing drinks to athletes throughout the afternoon. So as we've said, thank you again to ProDrate.
Because commentators need to restore too, so
you know what?
Just leave that to be.
As somebody who's a fan of coconut water, I am definitely going to drink this. That's for sure. So for me, this is definitely happy about this.
I was going to say we're going to need to recover our voice boxes. Hopefully, he does the same for us as our voice boxes that we'll do for all the athletes and their tired out muscles.
But yeah, that was again quite a time. So you're talking about 38 reps the first time, and then when we saw him, he did 23 reps, and we thought that was his best performance. That was his second best performance.
Yeah, he was obviously not happy with his second performance, but I was down there earlier, and he joked with me. He's like, "Man, where were you guys with the first performance?" It's like, we got other drills that we got to cover too. So,
he should have let us know ahead of time that we should have been expecting that big of a show.
Right, and he's a guy we've seen before, plays for the Chicago Chaos at times, and I think we've seen him on other teams too. So definitely a guy to pay attention to.
Absolutely,
when he's playing.
Absolutely.
And we've had a couple people that we've been able to pay some attention to. There have been some people who've really stuck out today. Calvin, for example, obviously.
Calvin Phillips. Right, yeah.
So you have to imagine those two people are getting a lot of recognition for what they've been able to do today.
Yeah, as they should, And again, showcase event. That's why you're here. Your time to shine and have fun with it too. And I think when it's all said and done, I think that's what you're seeing here today.
Absolutely. So as we continue here, you've still got the passing drills going on. I believe the 3-on-3 as we're calling them. And it seems to be what is could possibly wind up wrapping us up as we wind down a little bit. We're not sure if they're going to have any other individual drills planned. We've got half the field house pretty much open right now, so I'd have to imagine that after this we might not have too much left in the day.
Now, they haven't let any of the other position groups go, though, so maybe there's going to be just some wrap-up where they have some sort of communication event or meeting at the center of the field there, but all the position groups are still here. Obviously, the ones that are still on the field right now are the receivers, the cornerbacks, the linebackers, and the running backs as they're going still through the passing drills.
Yeah, I think that's what they're liking about this drill. I think you were right. Those are probably linebackers out there. So you're getting to see each level of the defense and the offense on this. So you're getting your quarterback, running back, and wide receivers. You're getting your cornerbacks, your linebackers, and your safeties all in the mix on this play.
Right.
So probably a lot to digest from a scouting perspective.
Nice knockdown there.
Yes, very nice. Good diving effort. But yeah, it really allows us to see, how each thing goes. We're going to get a really nice replay. You'll see the corner or the linebacker stop, be able to change direction, and basically almost lay out completely to make that pass deflection.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up changing the direction there. And again, some of those drills we talked about is the ability to change direction. He was leaning to his left. That ball is being released, going to his right. He's got to quickly be able to adjust his body and go in that direction. He was able to do that successfully and knock down the pass.
Some information here for you guys. The routes that you're seeing run, it is predetermined by the quarterback. There is a little bit of a pre-huddle before they snap the ball, so that's how they're determining where to go, and that's how they're able to get on the same page. Okay. Especially when you think about it, some of these guys haven't really worked together, so That's how they're trying to get that timing down.
And as we said, I think it's a great test for the quarterback themselves in terms of setting up plays that they think are going to work. So you're basically calling an audible straight out of the huddle, and you're hoping that it's going to work as a quarterback. So as a scout, I'm looking at that quarterback saying, hey, what routes is that quarterback calling that he thinks is going to be effective against the players on the field?
Does he know the receivers well enough from what he's seen to know what maybe their better routes are and what routes they're not as good with, too? There's a lot that goes with it.
Yeah, you saw a drop on that last play there. I'm sure he'd love to have that one back.
Especially since it was on camera, too. So we definitely want to have that one back.
But you never know. Just that slight bit could be running through their head that, hey, I'm on camera right now. This is being broadcast. I've got people in front of me. We've really got a pretty impressive crowd here today watching this combine. I'm sure it's a lot of friends and family and everything like that. So it's great to see not only the support from the GFL in terms of what these players are doing, but to see the fan and family turnout that we have here as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for them. So they're here to support, their players, their spouse or their brother or, whoever it may be in their lives. They're here to support them for their endeavor to maybe progress to the next level of football or just be there to support them in general. So that's great. In addition to all the talent evaluators who are here, you do have the support from the fans of the players.
You can see on that last replay a very nice pass put up by the quarterback. Great job by the wide receiver cutting in front of the safety to make that catch and be able to hold onto it as he fell to the ground. So as we keep going here, not sure how much longer we're going to keep up with these drills. Looks like we've now got an offensive lineman and defensive lineman added in. So this is going to make things a little bit more interesting. As a great rush by that lineman forced the quarterback out of the pocket on his own and made him scramble.
It definitely adds a different element to it when you have some big guy charging towards you who wants to do you harm.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to make a throw when there's not a 300 guy running full speed at you. But I mean, it's also going to be a good test because now you really get to see those drills that we watched earlier with the offensive and defensive linemen, how they're going to take effect. Are these people tired? They've started to probably learn some of each other's tendencies. So how are they going to take that and apply it to this drill?
And they keep mixing up, so just trying to get a cadence here in terms of what's going to be involved. When are they throwing a defensive lineman into the mix? When are they not? When are they rushing? So, obviously in football, the plays never stay the same, so you're going to have to adapt, and that's what's happening here.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think it's a lot to take in, really, as a scout. So you have to know that the people here are professionals. If they're able to keep an eye on the offensive and defensive linemen, they're able to keep track of everything going on with the wide receivers in the backfield and the linebackers. In a little while, we're gonna have Donnell Wolford coming up for an interview with us, and looks like he is coming up on his way to set in just a moment here. So, as you can see, we'll keep this going here live on this passing drill as we get Dennis set up here on set with us.
Hey, Donnell, I'm Eric.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Great.
Hey, Brett.
How are you?
Good.
So joining us live here is Donnell Wolford, former NFL cornerback. And Donnell, so why don't you talk to us? What brings you out to the event today?
Well, Mark Kanicki invited me. He owns a company, I Want 365.
Okay.
So I'm out to support him.
Okay.
And I like what I see already because I used to run a semi-pro football team in Fayetteville, North Carolina, my hometown, Fort Bragg. So I know all about this. This is good. Good stuff.
Have you seen anybody or anything today specifically that's that stuck out to you?
Not yet. I just got here, so I got an hour and a half to make that evaluation, and I get on it quick.
So you got some catching up to do, is what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying. All right. Well, the good thing is we got a lot of it on tape too, so
Good.
that'll be a great thing.
Now, eye in the sky don't lie.
That's right. So what are the things when you come to an event like this? What are the things that you look for? So obviously there's the individual drills, there's the measurements you get out of it, but what other things do you look for when you're trying to evaluate players?
Just the overall, just all around IQ. Knowing the game and not only the physical part of it, a student of the game. So that's a balance to me. So I look for all that. It's not all about power. You got to have a balance in this game.
So not only obviously, like you said, the measurements, but a lot of the intangibles, the stuff that you really can't write down or measurement with a clock or a watch or anything like that.
Right.
So starting, obviously, we're at the amateur level right here. We've got some people that we've actually talked to some people who are going for pro level tryouts here so far. What kind of advice would you give those people here at the Combine today?
Keep working hard. Follow your dream. Follow them because and keep working hard, and if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
So Donnell, what have you been up to then? So what are you doing currently?
Well, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I work with our alumni chapter there. We have 100 guys there in Charlotte, and NFL, PA, and we help small businesses get up and running. They give us money into our chapter to go out in the community to help the kids.
Okay, for the NFL
That's
Players
my home.
Association?
Yes, and that's where I live. And things that I got going on here, I'm doing some consulting work for a couple of companies here in town.
Okay.
And then I'm also working with Mark.
Okay, so you come back and forth to Chicago every now and then?
Back and forth.
Really? Okay.
So
When it gets cold, and I got to go.
How did you and Mark get to know each other?
Good.
Your timing is impeccable. All right.
How did you and Mark get to know each other?
Well, Mark and I, we were trying to put actually I met Mark in Schaumburg at a meeting with Dee Collins. She runs a magazine.
Okay.
So we met, and he told me some things that he was doing, and I was just now coming back to town, looking to get into some things, and we hooked up, and here we are. He's got this going on, and we're also working with another company together, business-wise. So it's a good guy.
So go back to your Combine days. You remember going through things like this, right? What do you remember most about going through Combines, and what drills did you like, and what drills did you really not care for?
Well, unless you were Deion Sanders, you had to go and worry about things that they were looking for, and whether you were fast or not, and you gotta be strong. You gotta do the vertical, the shuttle, and all those things. You got to prepare for them.
Right.
And if you don't prepare for them when you come there and when it's game time, then there's a lot of eyes on you.
So what are the things?
It's very nerve-wracking to answer your question.
Right, exactly. What were some of the things then you did well at a Combine level? Where did you shine?
Well, bench press, I had the 225 26 times, and I was 185 pounds.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah.
So, and then I can jump. I can really jump high. I 40-inch vertical.
Right.
And then the shuttle, I was very fast going back this way. But I didn't do so well in the 40.
Well, but
it
you
was
were an
good enough to get me
all-pro
the first round draft choice. I must have done something right at the Combine.
First round draft choice. You were an all-pro, weren't you?
Yes.
As well. So, again, that's one of the things we've been trying to stress on this broadcast, though, is you may not measure out great in all of the things, though, but you still can perform well in football, not just by your measurements, by some of those intangibles you talked about.
Absolutely.
Well, you have to piece it together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. We've kind of gotten a general idea as we're sitting up here. If you remember back when you were at the Combine, what was kind of the attitude like? What was it like between the different players? What was the atmosphere like?
It was players from all over. So there are different uniforms and different schools and stuff like that. And so you got out there and you were friends with them, but you also want to kick their tails.
Yeah.
So it was just it was competition within the house. And then whoever performs, people will see that. Coaches and owners will see stuff like that, and then that's how you get drafted.
Obviously, now you see a lot more, probably because of social media, how chirpy cornerbacks and wide receivers can be with each other. Did you ever have anybody that you competed against who was particularly chirpy with you or a little bit trash talky?
I really didn't have a lot of problems with anyone. I was respectful, because I came to the game ready to play, and they know that. They knew that. So and it was on. So it's no trash talking. Let the performance do your trash talking, and that's what I did.
Now, there's been a lot of rule changes in the NFL since you've played. an athlete's an athlete, but how do you think you would fare in today's NFL based on how the rules have really heavily favored the offense over the years? They even favored them back when you were playing,
A
too.
little bit, but they didn't throw the ball as much. They ran the ball more back
That's
then.
true. That's true.
If I'd have been playing now, I had 32. Peanut Tillman broke my record. I would have had a 72. But it's a different game.
Right.
And they want to see the scoreboard lit up and points on the board, and that's what the fans want to see. But no, we all know defense wins championships.
It does. Yes, it does. It does.
If you had to say, kind of in the same context of my last question, if there's one either a wide receiver or a quarterback that you love to compete against, who was that?
Well, it was a bunch of them. I had a lot of sleepless nights. We had Montana, you had John Elway, you had Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, you had Brent Favre, you had Dan Marino.
That's a list.
Steve Young.
Yeah, I'd imagine that'd keep
Troy
me up.
Aikman.
That'd keep me up some
I
nights
keep going?
too.
I need to keep going.
That's just the quarterbacks, and then you're talking about all the receivers. You had to face,
Jerry
too.
Rice, Chris Carter, good gracious, Michael Irvin, lots. Sterling Sharp.
Is there anything, if you had the opportunity, that you would like to see the game do or change right now? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but in terms of even safety or a rule change, the big thing right now is what's a catch, what's not a catch.
As we go along in this world, everything at some point in time needs improvement, and it does as well. And they're moving in the right direction, and I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Donnell, I have to ask you a question. I think only because it's timely and topical. The movie Concussion that's out right now, and you're talking about the game of football and head trauma, CTE, and things like that. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not, but what is your level of understanding of the issue and how it affects, being involved with the NFLPA? I imagine that's a topic that's very important to your brethren in the NFLPA.
Well, it is a physical game, physical sport. People get hurt. They're starting to monitor things a little more than they did, which they needed to do. And I have not gone to see Concussion, but I'm going to go Wednesday and go see it.
Okay.
So I heard some good reviews about it.
Yeah.
But it happens. I mean, I've had one concussion, but I could have had multiple ones. I don't know. The doctors, that's what they get paid to do.
Right.
But I started playing football when I was 6 years old. I was hitting head a big old helmet. Remember the big helmets? You walk around with big helmets. The helmet's bigger than the whole body. Then you knocking heads. You don't know. You could get hurt. Stars. You don't know. You could get one at 5 years of age. You don't know that.
Really don't know.
As you grow and you pound your head from time to time, you're gonna pound something loose, and that's where it is. And the world needs to know that. And people need to know that it's a physical, violent sport. But just take care of the guys just a little bit when they get done.
Right. Yeah. There's two aspects to it.
Yeah. Come on.
There's the
safety
safety
aspect. It's a $1 trillion business. Come on.
Right.
Can't have guys out here killing themselves.
Right.
And then, they're knowing they're messed up because you knew, when they signed up to play football, you knew it was a physical sport.
Right.
But don't lie about it.
Right.
I mean, that's greedy. And I think that's selfish, and they need to fix that.
Now, do you have kids of your own?
I have 3.
And
2 daughters and 1 son. My baby girl goes to Clemson University, who's number 1 in the country right now.
Really?
Yeah,
Excellent.
she's going to come up and see me when I watch the game.
And did your son play football?
He did, but he said, Dad, I don't like this sport.
Okay.
I said, well, he said, are you going to be upset because I don't play football because you played football and you were good at it? I said, no, I want you to do what Jonathan wants to do, and I want you to get your education. That's what I want you to do.
Right.
Football's not for everybody.
Right. Very good.
We see a lot of times parents want to try to direct their kids' lives and try to make them do things because they did it, and then end up failing. Then guess what that comes back to? It comes back to the parent. I don't want to be like that. I like to sleep at night.
Obviously, you're still part of the NFLPA, but is there anybody that you played with back in the day that you still keep up with pretty often?
Yeah, William Perry. We were at the Clemson game in the ACC title game in Charlotte, North Carolina, against Tar Heels. We hung out for a little while. And his brother Michael Dean Perry lives in Charlotte as well. Well, William lives in Aiken, but he was there. So those types of guys I hang around with times. Every now and then I see Jordan around the Hornets games.
Yeah.
Not to name drop or anything.
Not bad company to be in.
That's good. Hanging out with defensive linemen, that's pretty good.
Yes. They protect you, man. You never know. Come on.
That's right. They help make the
my big
quarterbacks
brother.
look good, right? Well, that's great. Well, Donnell, we appreciate you taking time with us today.
Likewise.
It's great to see you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much,
coming
Donnell.
out to the
Happy
Combine.
Happy holidays to you,
New Year
too.
as well.
Happy holidays.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we've got to appreciate Donnell Wolf for taking some time to hang with us. That was a treat for us as well.
Absolutely. It's not every day you get an all-pro defensive player to just jump on your broadcast. So very appreciative to Donnell for taking the time out for us.
That was outstanding. And again, some of the topics that are going on, player safety. He was talking specifically about some of the things that he'd like to see the league do for players after the game. So we know it's a violent game. We know that there's challenges from a concussion and head trauma standpoint. So he'd like to see the league to do more. Obviously, they had the concussion settlement a year or two ago. I forget the timing of that, but I don't think in a lot of players' eyes that's enough. And as you can see in Donnell's eyes, he doesn't think that's enough really either.
Absolutely. But it was nice to see some of the other things as well, that he still was able to keep in touch with some of the people that he played with, and he's able to keep in touch with local communities and kids, and that he clearly does care about football and family and everything.
Absolutely proud of his 3 kids, as he should be, and daughter going to Clemson, so excited about that as well.
I'm sure he's excited about their upcoming playoff game.
Oh yeah.
Looks like we might be starting to wrap up on some of the individual drills out there.
I think this is the clipboard drill we're looking at right now. So
I'm sure they're updating everybody on their grades.
A key component in football is being able to read the coach's clipboard and not have it thrown at you. So
well, nowadays it's all the Microsoft Surfaces. So
that's true.
They're gonna have to be able to read those in the future. I'm going to go into a different passing drill here, the skeleton 6-on-6 drill. So it's going to be a little bit more wide open field. You're not going to see 2 different going at the same time.